Hey, welcome everyone to the fourth Data Career Summit. I can't believe it, Brandy. This is our fourth. We've been doing this for almost 2 years now, and I think this is going to be the best one yet. I am so excited to see everyone that has signed up for the summit coming from all over the globe. Super cool to see. We have an awesome slate of speakers and panelists, and everyone really just coming together in the community for half a day to help support one another in terms of breaking into the field or finding a new role in the field. We're all in this together to help. That's what these 3 hours are all about. So super excited about that. You know, this started as a conversation between Brandy and I of, hey, how can we put something together to help address all of these questions that we're getting on how to break into the field and move up to it. And it's really cool to see what it's come to right now. And we really want to keep that momentum going. So welcome, everyone. Thank you so much. We're so glad that you're here, that you're spending a few hours with us. I do want to encourage you. I see a lot of folks are introducing themselves right now, but please continue to do that. And you know what? This time we always say introduce yourself and let everyone know where you're coming from, but we want to take it a step further today. As you're introducing yourself, think about what it is that you want to get out of today, and maybe let folks know what it is you do. Are you a student? Are you a practitioner in the field right now? Are you looking to get another role? Are you looking to get your first role? Let folks know in the chat what it is that you want to get out of today's session. Let folks know what it is that you do. And then if there's folks that you want to interact with, you're like, gosh, they're in a role that I'm interested in, that I want to find out more about, use that @ symbol, tag them, interact with them. This is all about helping each other. And you're very much a part of that as the audience. So definitely introduce yourself. Definitely. We encourage you to network with one another in the chat. And then also, too, just make sure you share any learnings that you have out on social media. So if there's a speaker that you really like and you want to shout out, some appreciation and thanks to them, please do it. Tag them in that post by all means. Tag it to #DataCareerSummit so that we can also, Brandy and I and our pages can reshare that stuff and really get the word out that you liked something, you wanted to thank one of the speakers. So please don't be shy. Do feel free to share your learnings and thanks and appreciation to our speakers out on LinkedIn and social media. And then lastly, please remember there is a giveaway. It's totally free to enter. Maven Analytics, one of the top analytics training platforms, has graciously given us 2 full scholarships, full year subscriptions, pro subscriptions to their training platform to give away. You can enter that by clicking on the QR code that's on your screen right now. So super excited. Welcome, everyone. And I am actually going to turn things back over to Brandy, who is my co-host and is also going to introduce our keynote speaker.
Awesome. Thanks, Dustin. I'm just as excited, as you are for today's event. Goodness, we have so much to cover, so many wonderful speakers, and I'm just really excited to be able to announce the keynote speaker for the day. One of the first tools that I learned in my data career was Tableau. And as I started getting more involved in the data community, I started hearing Eva Murray's name. She's an experienced data professional with over 13 years of experience helping organizations make the most of data and technology solutions. She's worked across the spectrum of consulting, industry, and vendor organizations, focusing on data analysis and visualization, as well as data platforms. So pretty much everything that you could possibly need to have a wonderful career in the data space. Eva's done it. As a career coach, Eva enables people to find a clear direction and create a career that excites them and allows them to use their talents at work every day. So she seems like the perfect person to give the keynote address for today's event. I'm incredibly honored and excited to be able to have her with us today. Welcome, Eva.
Hello, everyone. Good to see you. Thank you, Brandy. Thank you, Dustin, for having me. And hello, everyone out there on the internet who's watching live or later on demand. I'm really pleased. And before I dive into the presentation and keynote, a couple of things before I forget. So first one, I love, Dustin, your call out about people connecting with each other. And I do want to second that and say, make sure you connect. I see that people are putting, their name, where they're from, what they're doing, or what they're looking for. That is great. If you want to also add your LinkedIn profile so that people can find you there easily as well. And Dustin mentioned, post about the learnings, the things you take away from today's summit. This could be your first ever LinkedIn post. You could talk about this later today, over the weekend, maybe next week. What are 3 things that you learned today that you want to focus on in the coming days, weeks, and months that you want to implement in your career, whatever that might be? Or maybe just 3 things you found really interesting that you just didn't know about the world of data and data careers. So that is my challenge to you. Take 3 things and turn them into a LinkedIn post. And with that, I'm going to get over to my keynote. What you can expect from me today is a couple of stories and then also some practical tips on how you can take what I tell you to figure out what's your career path. What do you want it to be like? And I do want you to grab a piece of paper and a pen. We're going to use it a little bit later. In addition, so you don't have to take notes. The piece of paper and the pen are for a little exercise that we're going to do. And I have a freebie that Brandy will later on put the link in the comments for you to check out. And that is to figure out your career path. I have put together a free ebook that you can download and that you can use. So today's exercises that we're going to do as part of this keynote, they're going to kick you off so that you have a starting point. And then over the coming days, you can go deeper using the ebook, using the questions and prompts that are in there to find some new ideas, to maybe reflect a bit more and find out some new things about yourself, or some stuff that maybe was always in the back of your mind. You just couldn't put your finger on. So we will get into that. But let me first start with a couple of stories. So the theme of this event is Make Your Mark. And I want to talk about a few people who have made their mark. 3 different career transformations. The first one is a life-changing relocation, where this person, who is part of the community that I am in as well, she took the opportunity to build her profile in Tableau, using Tableau Public. So she built a number of visualizations over the course of a year or 2. She built her skills. She developed a portfolio of different visualizations to show her design skills, her analytical skills, how she tackled different topics of analysis, and how she would then communicate that information. And it actually caught the eye of a recruiter, and that helped her to move halfway across the world and start a completely new phase in her life, in a new country, surrounded by new people, in a new area of work. And to me, I'm getting goosebumps right now because she shared that story with me and how influential it was being part of the community and learning from other people, building her portfolio to have that foot in the door and to have that virtual business card of these are my skills. It's not just down to a CV, it's also demonstrating what you're capable of and who you are as a person, because it all is reflected in your portfolio as you build visualizations, or you publish code, or you talk about projects that you've done, or you publish YouTube videos, whatever floats your boat. And this story is really close to my heart because she really grabbed this opportunity and went for a complete change and has made a life for herself in another country on the other side of the world. Another story is of another community member who came into the community, who started. A lot of you have probably heard of the Project Makeover Monday that Andy Kriebel and I used to co-host. And this person, so she joined that project, and she was somebody who showed up every week, who worked on a data set every week to build visualizations, to learn. And what was really, really interesting about her is that we started to see a unique style emerging, where without knowing who built the visualization, we knew who built the visualization because it had her trademark on it. Just her style was very unique and very recognizable. And I loved seeing that because some people went for very, technical, complex calculations, and that's great. They really focused on building those skills. Other people went for design. Other people went for storytelling, or for trying different chart types, different formats, different approaches. And when you see that, when you see somebody taking this opportunity of a community project like Makeover Monday and many others to foster their career, to build their skills, to get started and see what happens, and after a year have 52 different visualizations, that can show others what they're capable of, that really warms my heart. And the final story is a person who did something very different. And he is somebody who is so good at not just mind bending, but brain explosion, mind boggling mathematics that flow into the calculations, that create visualizations and solutions. Where I'm like, I couldn't even think of this, let alone figure out how to do it. It's another level. And this is what he is known for. And this is what he pursues relentlessly. And he's passionate about it. And he comes up with new solutions all the time. And that's what people learn from him. So I hope this gives you a little bit of a flavor that there's not just one path. There are many different ways. And these are just 3 examples. Somebody who changed their career and literally their life by moving to another country and starting afresh there. Somebody else who said, I'm going to focus on design because I really like the visual element. And somebody who really likes building the visualizations, but does it from a very mathematical point of view and seeing just how far can I push this tool? What can I make happen? What is possible? So what do these people have in common is that they found their niche. They put in a lot of work to create some exciting opportunities for themselves. It's not that they were handed things on a silver platter. I don't think anyone really is. It's by doing these things, by putting yourself out there, by sharpening your skills, by taking a bit of a risk and saying, I'm going to go all in and I'm going to spend, let's say, maybe it's a few hours a week that I normally would have to maybe read or go to the movies. I'm going to spend this time on learning this for the next few months and see what happens. And they put that work in. And as a result, they had exciting opportunities. Some people find new jobs. Other people are more visible in the community. They might get recognition from Tableau or other vendors, depending on what tools they use. And now as a result, they're known for something and they can continue to leverage that reputation for themselves. And when I look at my own career journey, that's also been what I think has been just transformational for me. Taking a path, making it visible and showing up again and again as me with all my faults and flaws, but also being really authentic. And, what you see is what you get. This is how I show up, but building a reputation for what I can help with, what I can do. And if somebody's interested in that, then I can help them with that. And similarly, these people and many others like them have created a reputation and visibility for themselves that helps them for their career path for the long term. And I know other people will mention this in some of the talks that you will hear after mine, that over time, the goal could be, it doesn't have to be, but it could be that once you get into this career, right? Maybe you're at the beginning, maybe you're looking for your first job or your second or third. But as you build this reputation, it should precede you so that hopefully you don't have to apply for jobs eventually. You just have conversations. The last time I applied for a job formally through a portal, I don't think it was LinkedIn, it was something else. It was in 2013. And after that, it was networking and conversations, talking to somebody, and eventually it's like, oh, actually, are you hiring? There is still obviously interviews and things, but the formal application process that can be sometimes soul destroying, let's be honest, you can circumvent that by creating the visibility for yourself so that people don't have to wonder who you are in this mass of people. Okay, so your niche. What is your niche? What is a niche? I see it as an intersection of 6 different areas. One is your knowledge, and this is literally the stuff that's in your head, and you all have it. Even if you have just finished university, you don't have any practical experience yet, you have knowledge, you've learned a bunch of stuff, right? There's your experience, and it doesn't have to be purely data analytical experience. It could be experience working in a restaurant, in a hotel, working in a shop. Anything that you've done in the past is part of your experience and makes you who you are. Then your skills, the things you're capable of. Those could be technical skills. It could be other things like musical skills. Maybe it's video editing. There's a bunch of stuff that can count towards this. And then your expertise. Maybe you have a professional qualification. Maybe you are a chartered accountant or something else. Your ideas, the stuff that you come up with, like the person I mentioned earlier who has these like crazy advanced mathematical calculations that he knows how to then put into something technical in Tableau. And then your interest, the stuff that lights you up and the things where like, I really want to mesh all of these together. And that intersection of all of these 6 areas, as abstract as it might sound right now, that is what you can build into your niche. And it's unique to you. So one example I have is somebody who's maybe specialized in healthcare analytics, who has a background teaching English as a second language in South America. Maybe they did this a few years ago. They also have strong skills in Tableau, Figma, and Python. And maybe in their spare time, they're part of a theater group. And at work, they've worked for a healthcare provider and for a consulting company over the course of 6 years in total. Now, that sounds, like a bunch of very different things. But what does that mean for this person as a professional? What do they bring? They bring strong technical skills. I mentioned those. They can be maybe even measurable. Industry knowledge, healthcare industry. They have experience working for a provider, so it could be a hospital, for example, as well as a consulting company. So they've seen things from different perspectives. They've seen the business challenges and how they can be addressed through analytics. But also they have experience as a consultant working maybe with different healthcare providers in the industry and helping them solve their business problems. And then finally, their background in teaching and theater, that probably gives them really strong communication and presentation skills. So while all of those things might not immediately look like they're connected, when you really think about it, that stuff matters. And the things you do in your spare time, even if they're completely separate from work, they all help you shape who you are and they influence you as a professional. And please don't underestimate yourself in those areas and don't disregard the value you can bring through the things you do as a hobby on the side. So how can you find your niche? And this is where we're going to do a little bit of a practical exercise. The first question I want to just put out there is, I clicked too hard on my keyboard. Why does it matter? Why does it matter having a professional niche? Well, you don't have to worry about it. You can continue whatever path you're on and not really focus. But some people want to specialize. And the people I've worked with as coaching clients, a lot of the time, what they say is, well, I've done a bit of work now. I've worked for maybe 5 years. I'm at a point where I want a bit of a change, but I don't quite know what direction to pick because I don't want it to be another change in a year or two. I want this to be the next longer phase of my career. So maybe they are individual contributors, so maybe a data analyst or a data engineer, and they want to specialize and become very senior in those technical roles. But they don't necessarily want to manage people, and that's fine. We can figure out how they can shape a niche that lets them be a senior technical person. Or they want to actually manage people. They say, my next step is that I want to be responsible for a team. I want to lead others. I want to empower the next generation of data analysts as a leader. So when you think about your professional niche, you can put your flag in the ground, so to speak. You can say, this is who I am. This is what I do. And this is what I contribute. This is the impact I can have. And what I like about having a specialization, a focus area is you can really focus all that energy you have on becoming really, really good at this one thing. And you can create a lot more exciting, more opportunities, but also more exciting opportunities for yourself by having a niche than by being a generalist. Because as a generalist, you have to really cover a lot of areas, at least in my perspective and my experience. You have to stay up to date and sharper on different technologies and frameworks and methodologies all at the same time. Now, that might be less risky because if one area doesn't work out, you can move to another one. But by having a niche, you can say, I'm going to go all in on that. And typically, I would say, what I've seen is that people in our industry who are technically minded, who can communicate well, who are also nice to work with, they will find work even outside of their niche because a lot of things are adjacent. And what I mean by that, very briefly, before we move to the next question is, let's say you go all in on Tableau. And one day, poof, Tableau disappears into thin air. You can probably quite easily move to another tool like it or the next generation of tools because you know how to write calculations. You know what matters in visualizations. You understand best practices. You understand how interactive dashboards work. So a lot of those kind of things are transferable skills, even if you had specialized in Tableau. So even when we talk about a niche, I wouldn't be worried about being such a specialist that you can't then find work anywhere else. So that just to get that out of the way. So is this process that I'm about to tell you, is this going to work for you? yes, you can use this process. And I promise that by going through the questions we're doing today and the ones that are in my ebook, you will figure out something for yourself. You will probably recognize things where like, oh, I hadn't really thought of that. I didn't realize this was a valuable skill. You will get value out of it. You might not immediately be like, oh, this is my niche and this is my one-liner that I'm going to use as an elevator pitch. But you will get value out of it. And as you put more and more thought into the process, you'll get more and more out of it. I'm a big believer in reflection, and whether you sit on a bench and look out onto a lake, or you sit in your living room and look at a blank wall, it doesn't really matter. But giving yourself time to reflect and to not be distracted and to just think, actually, I'm going to take a pause here and I'm going to really think about these questions and write down everything that comes to mind, uninterrupted, undisturbed. Yeah, you will get some value from that. And I would say give yourself chunks of time, especially if you have commitments to other people like family members or pets who will not let you work on this for 4 hours straight. You might need to do 15 minutes here and there, but yeah, let's get into it. So the process, like I said, there is an ebook that goes with it. So I couldn't keep track of all the comments. So if Brandy hasn't posted the link, then she will share it now, or she might post it again. But this is where you can, by just signing up to my newsletter, you can then click download and you will get the PDF. And we're going to start the process now. So grab your piece of paper and a pen if you want to participate. You can also type it. I just like the tactile experience of writing by hand. And we're going to first start by looking at this list of questions of you as a data professional. Over the course of the next few days, you can add a bunch more details onto those questions as you go back to them. Think about what are some of your best skills in your daily work over the course of a week or a month, especially if you are in a team like finance where there's a month close or a quarterly close process. What are the things you do that you're really good at? What are the things that people come to you for when they need help, when they have questions? What are some of those things? Maybe scribble those down. What are some of the tools you use? It could be software, it could be platforms, different solutions that you interact with every day, where you're like, okay, some of these you might be an expert at, some of these you may have just started using, or you're comfortable navigating around, but you can recognize that there's a lot more value that you don't know about yet. So maybe you've explored 20% of the capabilities, but there's a lot more that you can make use of. And then what's your business expertise? So what industries have you worked in? What kind of organizations, are you experienced in? Like I mentioned earlier, are you experienced in healthcare or retail or finance or insurance, maybe transport, logistics? There are so many different industries. What have you worked in? And it doesn't have to be purely, full-time professional roles. It could also be what you did as a part-time job during university or beforehand. What are some of the things that you've dealt with? Because even in my time as a 15-year-old in a shoe shop selling shoes, I would have been exposed to things like, okay, we have deliveries and we have orders and we have returns. Sure, at a very basic level, and I don't remember much of it, but I have heard those terms. So just write all of those things down. And then who's in your network? So who are some of the people that you're surrounded by that you can draw on as a professional, that you can ask for help and be inspired by? And we're going to do this, by the way, pretty quickly because I want to leave a couple of minutes for Q&A as well. We're looking at your technical skills, and I know that a lot of you would be very excited about that because all of us, at the end of the day, we're a bunch of nerds, right? We love technical stuff, we love software, we love tools and things like that. So thinking about what technical things are you really good at? Is it specific programming languages? Is it specific, like I mentioned earlier, software? Is it processes or frameworks that you've been exposed to? Is it a methodology? Is it project management? All those kind of things. What kind of project have you completed? It could be a huge a digital transformation in a huge organization. It could be a very specific data migration project, any of those. If a company hires you, what would you say are the 3 key benefits they're going to gain by having you join their team? And then what are some of the things that you've done that had a real impact? And it doesn't all have to be technical or expressed in dollars. It could be, hey, I introduced that we do a 10-minute quiz every Friday morning and it's become a real team event and we've grown closer as a team. All of that is impact. So have a think about those. Is there a way to objectively evaluate your technical skills? And this could be certifications, it could be your portfolio where somebody can look at your progression over the past and how you've grown as a technical professional. And then knowledge sharing. I've put this in there because I think it's also a great measure of your skills. What can you teach others? When you think about it, what is a topic you would love to talk to others about and help them learn and help them figure out? And do you have any examples of that? Maybe you're publishing articles, maybe you're publishing things on GitHub, maybe you've done a presentation in the past, or you've developed some sort of gamified tool that helps people learn. And if not, how could you create some of those opportunities for yourself? And this is the easy bit. You literally just talk about it on the internet, right? There are so many places now where you can share your knowledge. Okay, there's plenty more we could talk about on this topic, but we're going to move on because I want you, for all the different areas that you'll find in the ebook, to have a starting point so you can then do a deep dive by yourself. What's your ideal working day? And maybe you say Sunday because I don't really want to work. But when you think about working, how can you do your best work? How do you start the day? This is, again, where you can do scribble down some notes. Really visualize this. How do you want to start your day? Maybe it's, I want to get up at 5 a.m. and go for a run in the forest. Or actually, I want to sleep in because I'm more of a late night person and I'd rather work late into the evening. Okay, maybe you get up at 9 o'clock and you're at your desk at 10:30 and in between you have a nice leisurely breakfast and that's great. What's the first thing you do in the morning? And when you start working, your actual work, opening your laptop or getting up at the whiteboard, what's the first task that you tackle? What's the stuff that excites you as you start your workday? And who do you connect with? Is it your teammates? Is it some experts out there in the community? Who is it that you want to talk to? And how much of your time and energy do you want to spend on the really important projects and tasks that you have to do, but also the ones you want to do? And then how do you finish your workday? Do you have maybe you got a meeting to close out the day, or do you have a ritual that you want to do at the end? And what comes afterwards? Is it family? Is it friends? Is it hobbies? Is it going out for a nice meal? Visualizing this helps you figure out what are some of the things that are important to you, so that when you look for a job, sure, you might not get it, but it's good to know what you want so that you can say, these are my non-negotiables, these things are negotiable, and somewhere in between there, I will figure things out for myself. And one more quick detour before I try and close this out is, I think that in every role, there's room to create more in that role. You have the job description, but there's always going to be tasks and responsibilities that are outside of that job description. And maybe that's how you can cover some of the things that you would ideally like to have in a job. And then finally, as a last question area is, what does your ideal working environment look like? And this could be an office, this could be working at home, working in a co-working space. Where do you do your best focused work? Where do you best collaborate with others? And during meetings, how do you like interacting? How can you make your best contributions? Do you prefer to speak up at the end? Do you want to send a message on Slack? Do you want to not say anything, but then absorb it all and maybe do a debrief for the team via email or something? So thinking about those areas will really help you figure out, what are your strengths? How do you best work? What do you want to do? Where are your skills at now? What do you want to develop? And I really, really encourage you to take this next step and use my guide to reflect further on this and figure out some of those answers for yourself and just see where that takes you and see how that translates into a short statement of, hey, this is who I am as a professional. This is what I want to do. And does it help you find more clarity for your next step in your data career? And I know this was rapid fire. So if you want more help along the way, I invite you to send me a message. You'll see the URL for my website up on the screen. And I know that Brandy is going to include it also in the follow-up messages, and she's posted the link as well. And we've got a minute left for questions. Are there any that Brandy or Dustin that you want to bring up for me to answer live?
So, Brandy, I think there was quite a few that you starred as Eva was talking about. Thank you so much, Eva, for that keynote. Lots and lots of discussion in the chat. Brandy, were there any that you saw in particular that you wanted? Is there maybe one you want to pull out? Oh, you're muted. We can't. Yep, there we go.
Sorry, I just unmuted myself. Yeah. I think that maybe the first question, I'll give you a bit of a softball. Can we get the slides that you just shared?
If people want the slides, they can have the slides. Yes, I will turn them around for you guys and share them so you can put them in the follow-ups. Yeah. And maybe just to clarify again, if people missed it, the ebook, again, it is free and it's just a deeper dive. So it's a document that's, quite a simple document, 15 pages, but it's a lot of just questions and bullet points to help people navigate through these. So it goes into more of the talking track that I had rather than the imagery and high-level questions. So I would say use them together.
Got it. Great. Thank you. Let's see. I think another question that is really kind of great is, can you do freelancing with skills in Tableau? Like, where does freelancing fit in terms of, your ideal kind of workspace, and maybe to kind of pair that with the skills that you have?
I'll be a bit cheeky here. So I think that everyone who, starts a new job or is looking for a job should try, depending on where they're at in their career. And, if you're right at the beginning, you might not have the skills to credibly show up yet on your own as a freelancer in addition to your job. But if you are at a point where you're like, I could do something on the side, ask for this to be in your work contract, that you are allowed to do something on the side. Now, it will always require special permission and you should get that in writing. But as long as it's not in competition with your job, like you're doing something that competes for customers, for example, you will probably find that companies are open to it. They know they need to foster their talent. And it's a great way to, scratch that itch that you might have to see, what can I do on my own, and get some of those projects that you might not get through work. So I think if you can do something on the side, it's also what I did in the past. And I loved it because it gave me a completely new field to explore. And a lot of companies have policies in place, or they can put them in place so that you are allowed to do a certain number of hours, for example, that would not impact your capability to deliver your main job, but that you can do on the side. In terms of doing it freelance, there are platforms where you can kind of hire yourself out to people where they post projects and you can say, yeah, I would like to put a bid in and I could deliver this project. I imagine that, again, building your profile and being able to be recommended through word of mouth and maybe LinkedIn recommendations and introductions is probably the best way to go, because then you're not an anonymous bidder in a big sea of lots of fish bidding on a project, but rather somebody says, hey, I know this guy, I know this woman, they're great, they're really good at this job, they will deliver this project for you. It's how I operate as well. So sometimes people come to me and they're like, do you know somebody who can help us with this dashboard building? And it's not me. That's not where my best skills are. So I will then refer to people who I know have made it their business to do that. So I will introduce them.
Yeah. Great. Well, thank you so much. I know that there's so many other questions that people ask, but we also have to get to our next panel discussion. But Eva, thank you so much for your time. It was absolutely phenomenal.
Yes,
thanks for having me. I'll jump over on the chat on YouTube and see if I can answer some questions. Thank you.
Dozens, if not hundreds, of questions waiting for you here. So I'm sure folks will love talking with you. Yes, thank you very much. That was amazing. Thank you, Eva.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay. Awesome. Very cool. Very active chat, probably the most active that we've had. So definitely appreciate that. And would just remind folks that Brandy did share out some links to Eva's content that you can get for free. Please do take a look at that. Please do follow Eva on LinkedIn. She's just an amazing individual and can help with all kinds of things for your data career. So thanks again to Eva. Next, we have a panel discussion coming up on a very important topic. It centers around questions that Brandy and I get all the time as practitioners in the field, as well as, being hosts of an event like this. But the name of this panel that's coming up is Getting Experience Without Having the Title. And a lot of folks will reach out to Brandy and I and say, hey, you know, we see you need 2 years of experience to get this, what seems like entry level data analyst position. Well, how can I have experience, you know, for an entry level position if I've never been a data analyst? So it feels kind of circular, right? So we've brought together a group of 4 folks that are going to help tackle this question and help you, you know, think about what are some things you can do to make your mark before getting that first role, so you can actually land it, even if you don't have the, you know, the actual title data analyst, and actual, you know, experience under a data analyst title. So moderating this next panel, I'll start to pull everyone up here, is going to be Laura Benos, who is actually the director of career services for the MS in Business Analytics program at Georgetown University. Now, you might recognize Laura if you've been to a past summit, because she was actually a panelist at a previous event. She's been a huge supporter of our event, and we really appreciate that. Kind of been following us since day one, and it's awesome to have you moderate. I'm going to turn it right over to you. I got to point this way to Laura. I'll pull Brandy and I off and let you run with it. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you so much, Dustin and Brandy. I'm so excited to be here. Yes, I've been following along on this summit for about a year now, because I myself was trying to build a bridge and learn new skills in an area that was relatively new to me, so that I could better support folks. So as we enter whatever the transition is in your career, if you really present as someone who's just trying to learn and grow and help others, you'll find yourself very successful in achieving those goals that you have. And when we bring the panel together today, our goal, our collective goal, is to help you in the next 25 minutes feel a little bit more confident about your next steps, and the fact that you can get to that next level in your career if you think a little bit creatively about what you're bringing to the table and know exactly like how that could affect where you're going. And so I am going to spend a lot of time talking to our amazing 3 panelists today. Each of them has their own unique career journey and how they were doing something and now they're doing something else relevant to data consulting, to analysis. And they're going to share with us how they made those changes in their careers, because something we heard in the keynote from Eva, there's so many great tips out there, and it can maybe feel like, how do I actually do this for me? And you should use her ebook and her tips. And then we're going to animate how maybe some of those tips even played out in real time for our 3 panelists. So without further ado, I would love our 3 panelists to introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about their career journey before we launch into some more specific questions. So maybe we can start with Jennifer. Oh, and Jennifer, it looks like you're muted.
Sorry. Hello. I'm Jennifer Rash. So my data career really is centralized around specifically visualizing data. Originally I began as a more traditional graphic designer, so focusing on print and digital media for B2B companies. But as the industry kind of shifted its focus, my work did as well, to more kind of specifically around digital product and UX. So from a data visualization perspective, a lot of what I work on really centers around visualizing UX processes. So things that are sort of more like events, like when people come together, you have user experience research, you have journeys, user journeys, you have workshops, all of those things kind of need to be kind of quantified, visualized. You need to be able to share them out and leverage the knowledge that you get from them. So that's a big part of what I do kind of from the data visualization side of things. And currently I'm working as a consultant for a software engineering firm. And I'm still kind of in that UX and design focus and finding ways to visualize those things to be able to explain out to our team and to clients. That's a little about me.
Thank you so much. Lots of creative skills kind of mashing together with the technical. Kelly, can you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah. Can everyone hear me? Sorry.
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, my name's Kelly Adams, and I actually studied education in college to be a math teacher. Didn't really work out for me. And then after that, I kind of had a few random jobs, and I landed as a paralegal for about 3 years in real estate law. And I took the Google Data Analytics course, the very popular one, and I thought, this looks like a lot of fun. So I decided to try it out, and I actually made the switch last year in July of 2023. And right now I work as a data analyst at Golden Hearts Gaming Company, which is a social gaming company.
Lots of transitions there, Kelly. I can't wait to hear more about that. Liliana, can you introduce yourself, please?
Yes. Hello, everyone. I hope you can all hear me. Yes? Okay, just checking. My name is Liliana Torres, and my career began when I moved to the US. I didn't know the language very well, and I was looking to work in technology as I graduated as a software engineer. I learned the language, but it wasn't enough. I needed practice. I started working on customer service, and it helps me to get the experience to be able to communicate. After that, I got pretty fluent. I got really well at my job, and I began searching for opportunities, right? When you don't have experience and you're recently graduate, you don't know where you're going to find. I got really passionate in about understanding in the business, in the side of the customer service. And then I got an opportunity to work in technical support. But this was the opportunity at the beginning of my data career, which I didn't know it was going to be. I was trying to understand the problems that they have in the business transactionally, because internal customers will call and say, the system is not working, the numbers are not matching, the information is incorrect. So I started asking questions around and trying to really debug in the front end what was the problem. And I work with the developers to tell them, hey, the data problem is here. You have this bug, it's calculating this wrong. You need to fix this in the data, in the software. And also made me realize that it's not about you have a software, you also have data, but data needs to have quality, right? Someone needs to check on that and validate those things. And this is how it all started. I got really curious about it, and I kept learning and always asking for an opportunity. Even they didn't tell me yes right away, I always kept asking, saying, me, see what I can do. I show them, and with that experience is when I got that chance. Right now, I work as a senior data analyst at GitHub, which I mainly do a customer success area. And my title is very general. I do it from data architecture all the way to visualization to our internal customers to understand how the business is doing and how can we leverage that data to the future to perform better, to have more releases, to have more information in the business to be able to grow those products.
Thank you so much. And I know we have a global audience on this event today, and certainly watching later after the live stream. Liliana, while I have you, I'd love to learn a little bit more about how relocating to a different country and lacking some specifically prior experience that's like one-to-one with data, how did that really help you in launching your career in data? Because it sounds like you really approached this with a growth mindset and lots of curiosity.
Yeah, honestly, like moving to another country, which from Venezuela to the US, completely different culture. Everything functions differently, economically, daily. It was a big challenge to me, and it helped me to be more confident. I felt lacking of experience was really hard for me. I felt that I wasn't good enough, that it was not important, that I was not important enough because I was rejected many times. From talking to people to try to understand a conversation to getting a job, because in some of the times even my immigration status was a problem. Some people wouldn't understand that and I wouldn't get hired for. So all these challenges has helped me to realize that those obstacles are opportunities to what, to learn, to try new things, to see what other ways I can go to make that extra mile and get that opportunity. Because let's be clear, we always get rejected. It's always going to happen. Sometimes this is the dream job I want and I just don't get it, but it's okay, because that might not be the right fit for you. You'll find the right fit, the right people to work with will give you the opportunity. But the main constant is perseverance, to keep trying and take all those experiences and using them to grow and learn. And this is how I improve myself. I always was afraid to ask the wrong questions, but I did it anyway because failing is always part to learn and open your mind to new horizons.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm inspired by your persistence and your perseverance, and working at GitHub now in an analytical role is probably what a lot of the folks on this call are aspiring to do, and just to take those lessons learned and apply them. Wonderful. Jennifer, I would love to hear a bit. It sounds like you have a really creative background. I understand you worked in graphic design before. Can you talk a little bit about the experience and the skills you gained from graphic design and how that's helping you now in your current role?
Sure. Yeah. You know, and as I think about it, I think some of these are kind of generalized skills in a way. I know, Liliana, you brought up curiosity, like curiosity being kind of a key thing. I think that's a kind of a pillar of design as well. Like if you are designing, you need to be very curious about, you know, who you're designing for and what you're designing about and all of those things. And it just makes whatever it is that you're working on better. But also that's very transferable into if you're kind of given a new task, it's something you're not familiar with, to kind of like tune out, you know, curiosity is a kind of a by default positive, you know, mental state. If you're curious, you know, you're kind of you're more motivated and kind of upbeat about the new challenge instead of being worried or scared or those other things. So curiosity is a big one. I'd say experimentation is probably another big one, because you, as a designer too, I can only speak for myself as experience, but you kind of have this imagination that like, oh, if I become a good designer, that means I'm really good. I just do things and they come out really nice. But for me, it's all about getting used to being able to fail quickly. And that's the experimentation part, like to be able to like kind of quickly run through and, oh, this isn't working, throw it away. This isn't working, throw it away. And that trial and error is all, again, that's kind of, that can apply to pretty much anything. And then I think another big one would be observation. So when you are looking at something that is a beautiful design, you can recognize it as a beautiful design, but the next step to take is why. To like take apart that watch, figure it out, like it's working because of these things. But that is applicable again to anything that you see that is being done well. That could be management skills, that could be anything. You can always kind of dissect it down to its parts. Which again, when you're faced with something that is like you're kind of coming at it from kind of a sideways path, doing those things often and, you know, kind of just sort of leaning on those is very helpful, I think.
I envy your creative skills. I wish I had the ability to do that, and the ability to very quickly pivot, I think, is really important in any data career. That's really, really good advice. Kelly, we would love to hear teacher to paralegal to data analyst, and would love to hear a bit about what that's been like for you and what the transferable skills have looked like throughout that journey.
Yeah, so I found there was a lot of transferable skills between all of those, and there's a few jobs missing, but I didn't stay at them that long, to be honest. But for me, one of them was communication. So as a teacher and as a paralegal, you need to communicate a lot with either students, parents, or clients. Anyways, they have a lot of things that they want, you can't always give. So as a data analyst, you need to communicate a lot with stakeholders, your coworkers, anyone else. So I found that that's one of the main skills that I was able to transfer and kind of one of the things that made me stood out. And another one is attention to detail. If you're reading like a 100-page legal document, you need to be able to like look for the comma. That's not a joke. A comma has been a court case because it was in the wrong place. So for me, that's helped a lot, especially if you're looking at some data, you get a result back, and you just need to look at it and go, you know, this actually doesn't look right. It's spitting out numbers, but the numbers don't seem correct. And kind of the last one is like problem solving. You know, paralegal teaching, you need to do a lot of problem solving, figure out different legal cases. So it's a lot of research, like this doesn't seem correct, or I don't know if you've done anything about this, so you need to come at it from different angles, and definitely teaching. Students don't always learn the same way, so you need to be able to understand and come at it from different angles and explain things. They all kind of interrelate with each other.
It's so interesting because the way you describe it, I can feel the how they are interrelated. But if I just saw on paper teacher, paralegal, data analyst, it would take me a minute to figure that out. So Kelly, can you tell us a bit? I know you did some upskilling too during that time. You probably identified like, I want to strengthen these skills so I can get to this next stage in my career. What advice would you have for those who are here? Maybe we have some former teachers or former whatever, who are thinking about becoming a data analyst and upskilling and owning those transferable skills and communicating them out. What tips would you have there?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me was being able to craft a story of how one relates to the other. Because, like you said, on a resume or on my LinkedIn, it doesn't make a lot of sense. So I had to create a story that made sense. Like, as a teacher, I like problem solving and I liked math. And then, as a paralegal, communication, problem solving, attention to detail. And from that, I would talk about that as the data analyst. Of course, the technical skills are important, and I had a portfolio for that as well. Because, of course, they ask for a lot of things like SQL, some data visualization tool, and Excel. But being able to like explain my story and answer the basic, like, tell me about yourself questions was really helpful, and becoming confident in the transferable skills I have.
Thank you so much. And Jennifer, coming from a very creative field, what advice might you have for some of the folks on this event today who are making that kind of a change as well, like building a bridge and marketing your past experiences to fit the new ones?
Yeah, I think Kelly just explained it really nicely, actually. Like you look for those through lines, because I think one of the misconceptions sometimes when people talk about, a creative job, my personal belief is that like I think it's really hard to find a job that's not creative. They're all creative. Most all jobs are some kind of problem solving, and and I think having that, but you need to connect the dots for people. So kind of how Kelly described, like it's not going to be completely obvious. You need to come in and say, this relates to this, and which relates to that, and they all feed into each other. So I think my experience with that is somewhat similar in that, and that's again part of what design is connecting the dots for people. So yeah, I think anyone could really, if you think enough about it, I think there's enough transferability between different types of skill sets, no matter what they are, to really look for that through line.
Thank you so much. I totally agree, especially when we think about things like resumes that feel like static documents. You use the same resume for everything. It's really not the case. It's serving your audience what they need, how they need to see your past and your accomplishments.
Mm-hmm.
Liliana, let's talk a little bit about how your kind of customer service into data analytics journey kind of progressed. Can you tell us about any obstacles you faced, or maybe like imposter syndrome and what that felt like as you made those changes and marketed yourself to your new audience?
Yes. And know that my career, of course, like started in customer service, and even technical support is relative to customer service too. You're doing some technical things online, you're learning, helping others with their computers and with their systems, which was internal, but it wasn't really a data job. It just turned to be a data job because the things I did to be curious about, right? And it wasn't planned. It wasn't anything planned, right? But there is always this thing in the background saying you're not doing it right. Maybe you're asking too much. Maybe you're saying too much, or maybe you are not saying enough, or you are not saying the right thing. How do you know, right? Because sometimes you don't get that feedback. And that made me realize that my head wasn't in tune with what I wanted. And I started to ask myself, what can I do to overcome those things and to be able to move, right? Because whenever I got that opportunity, I started being a data analyst, but of course, data analyst is a broad career, right? You can start just doing writing queries, that's it. Or you can just start doing building reports, right? And then you get to more to the data engineering side, data infrastructure, which titles I think I overrated all over the world. Sometimes people have a title and you always need to know what they do because every company is different. So doing with all these things, I just kept telling myself, I'm just gonna keep asking, what's the worst that could happen? And my mom always told me that, what's the worst that could happen? They say no, or they say you're wrong, right? And there was a book that I really recommend to everyone to read, which is Adam Grant. I'm sure everyone knows Adam Grant. Think Again, right? Think Again is like, people tell you things, right? And sometimes you have friends, you have coworkers that help you, and those things that they tell you, sometimes it helps you to feel worse, and sometimes it helps you to feel better, right? And you don't know, but you need to find that own path for you. What is good enough? What is not good enough? What am I afraid of, right? And the Think Again book thinking helped me a lot to really open my mind, to listen and just absorb what I needed, right? And then trust myself, right? Trust myself to be able to get to say, okay, this is a setback, maybe. What did I do wrong? What can I do better? Did I really do something wrong? Maybe I didn't do enough. Maybe I could do something better. And help me also to ask for feedback and also ask others, like, what are you thinking? What do you think about this? Is this the right thing? Because sometimes we think we are doing the right thing and we just don't know. And feedback, that's the other key to be able to succeed. Because if you don't ask for feedback, you don't know where you are and you don't know where you can be. And then when I moved to that career, I started being a full data analyst, where I could just build reports and I could bring solutions to them. I could build infrastructure in the database, and it was all because of it. And I remember my manager told me, "You're here because of you, not because anyone else." Sometimes you have the opportunity that your managers look out for you a lot, but sometimes you don't. And you always need to look for yourself. You always need to do that, because it's important. It's important, and it's you, and it's what you want and where you want to be.
I do believe that we are our own worst critics, and that we need to be our own biggest cheerleaders. And I think that's really insightful advice. I know we're going to take a question from the audience. Before we do so, I would love if anyone from our panel has any actionable advice for what some of our attendees could do today to start bridging that gap in thinking about getting that next job without the title, getting the experience without the title. For example, I sometimes work with students who have had internships, and because their title was intern, they feel that they've lacked experience, or maybe they've done a project and they feel that they lack the experience they need. And so I encourage them, next to the word intern, to put in parentheses equivalent to a data analyst, or equivalent to whatever it actually is that it could be. Because so often companies put young professionals in spaces that don't have the title, but do garner the skills. So I would encourage our attendees to think, we're not lying on our resumes, but we are saying what the equivalence is, so we can help our audience learn about how important our impact was. Any other advice from our panel of what we can all do today?
I would say something I did a lot with my experience, because also moving from a junior analyst to be a senior analyst is hard too. It's not an easy path. Is volunteer. Volunteer is a great thing. I volunteered. I was a Women Who Code leader. I learned a lot. I went all over. I learned so many things that sometimes you don't realize you learn, and also be able to teach others. Sometimes you give a talk. Sometimes you do a workshop, and that helped you. But also volunteer in the career. There are so many opportunities. Like GitHub.com has a lot, for sure. There's a lot of open source that you could do and get those opportunities to show that. Because when I was interviewed, and I put those volunteer work that I have done, they always ask me, and they're always empowered, because you're helping someone else. And that's important for companies these days too. So I will say that's really, really important to do, and try to achieve. Just aside of building a portfolio, which is great, but the volunteering work, it gives you also exposure in an organization to do something they need help with.
Yeah, that's great advice.
Awesome. Very cool. This is an amazing discussion. Lots and lots of comments and questions. Unfortunately, we can only take one, but there was one we were just talking backstage that we definitely wanted to bring up, because this is something that I know that some of the panelists talked about it a little bit during the discussion here, but it comes up a lot. And I did just want to pull this up on the screen. So the question is, how do you explain, thinking about transferable skills, how do you explain your transferable skills through just a resume? You know, so if you're submitting something where you don't have a chance to talk to someone, you know, how do you position that? How do you get those transferable skills noticed and thought about in the terms of how they would transfer to an analytics role? Would love to hear any panel members' perspective on that.
My first piece probably would be, if you can get your hands on a really strong resume for a position that you want. Again, it's like the dissecting of, like, why does that work? What's the language they're using? What are they focusing on? How do you make your current experience kind of map to that experience in some way, so that it's sort of a recognizable language for the person who gets the resume?
Yeah, I think that's also good advice. I kind of did something similar. I looked at resumes online for data analysts. So I kind of mirrored that language in my own resume, except obviously it's like communicate with clients instead of communicate with stakeholders. So I think that helps stand out. And then look at the job posting, like what are they emphasizing as well, and put that in your resume.
Yeah, keywords are really important. And now we have AI, right? You have to leverage AI to help you to reword those things a little bit, but not just that. And I know that there was a really good sample here about transferable skills from paralegal to data analyst, right? She did a great job explaining that. But when you look at the job resume, sometimes we're rushing just to apply to too many. It's better to apply to two with good quality than quantity, right? Always look at what is critical in each sentence to see how can I transfer what I did, right? And this is a great example. I work in Women Who Code, and I was solving problems there. I was trying to help the organization to teach others, right? And to support others. And whenever I was doing that, I wanted a senior role. And in a senior role, I have to manage people. I manage people right now, and they help me to build what I build. It's not just me. And that in that experience helped me to transfer to lead others and to be able to achieve those things, because you need product management skills, you need problem solving skills. It's not just about building the chart, right? And also the communication with the stakeholders, try to understand and getting those insights. When you work in a lot of the jobs, you use those skills. Those skills are used anywhere. When you sell something, you need to tell something to your stakeholders. You need to tell them, because you are the expert of the data, how do you solve that problem and what is the best metric to use. So you do those things there. It's just about how you word them. So take a little bit more of time. And it's not about putting thousands of lines. It's about 2 lines and being to the point. To what is the point? How do I want them to look at me in 2 lines? Which is, I know it's challenging, but practice makes you better every day as you keep doing it.
Awesome advice. I'm so glad that we brought this question up, because each of you gave some really good recommendations on something that's asked about a lot. So thank you very much. And thank you to everyone for being a part of this panel. Thank you, Laura, for moderating. I know it was super helpful. Again, lots of discussion. If anyone wants to hang around in the chat for the event afterwards, feel free. I'm sure folks would love to hear from you. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay. Hey, Brandy.
Hi. That was just jam-packed full of like phenomenal insights.
Totally. Absolutely. No, that was awesome. And I'm glad we were able to at least get one really good question addressed. And I wouldn't be surprised if some of the panelists hang around for a little bit after. I saw some heads nodding there like they were going to. So I think that'll be fun for the participants. So moving along, I know we did want to, before we introduce the next segment, I know we wanted to pause just very briefly and give some shout outs of thanks. I think we have a slide for this, right, Brandy? Yep, there it is. Very cool. Yeah, so, thanks very much to a few organizations here that have helped kind of get the word out about the Data Careers Summit and have, currently or in the past given, giveaway items for us to give out in the giveaways. And again, just help share the word through their own distribution list, through their own companies. Really did just want to say thank you to these 5 organizations. And we've continued to thank them with links on our website. You can check out each of them via the links on our website. All of them very supportive organizations of learning and education in the data community. So huge thanks to Maven Analytics, the Data School of New York, Data Drive, Dedicated, and Alteryx Sparked Education Program. You may remember actually Libby Duane Adams, who was the co-founder of Alteryx, actually gave the keynote at the last session. And we look forward to just collaborating more with these organizations in the future. So just wanted to say thank you. All right. Excuse me. With that, we will move right along. We're making pretty good time. We will switch over to the building a portfolio segment. And so before I introduce the first speaker, just to give some context to this session, we wanted to bring in some real experts, kind of distinguished experts in the field to give you a feel using kind of different tools, different angles, how you can build a portfolio to put some work out there and kind of show people, not just tell them, but show them what skills you have and how you can actually apply those skills to solve problems. And just demonstrate your value, your personal value proposition as an analyst. So that's what the session is all about. And the first speaker is going to be Sekou Tyler. I'm going to bring Sekou up onto the screen. Welcome, Sekou.
Hello.
Hi there. So Sekou, I actually got the chance to meet you out on the floor of Tableau conference last year, I believe. So Sekou has had bunch of progressive experience in the data analytics field, and actually so much so that he just founded his own company, Royal Blue Analytics. There, yep, have the shirt on, looks great, very cool. So congrats on starting that. And I won't talk too much more. I want to turn it over to you and let you take the next 10 minutes or so to kind of share your expertise on this topic.
Fantastic, thank you so much. I'm excited to get into it. Let me get my screen showing, and we will hop right into everything. All right, so we're going to talk through how to build a portfolio showcasing your work. As Dustin mentioned, I'm Sekou Tyler, and follow me on social media as at SQLSEKOU on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all those ones, Snapchat, all that stuff. And then Sekou on YouTube. I'm so close to 1,000 followers. Please subscribe if you are looking at this. That'd be great. But as Dustin mentioned, I'm a highly experienced, results-driven founder analytics of my own company. But before then, I've had 10 years of experience in various roles, all the way from data analyst all the way up to managing director. So kind of seen it all. Done a lot of things here. But certifications, Databricks, Tableau, Power BI. I just took this Microsoft Fabric one. I don't know if I passed or not. We'll see. Alteryx designer. And then as far as community initiative, I co-lead Nashville Power BI and the Tableau user group here in Nashville. I am a current Tableau social ambassador, and then 10 Minute Tuesday podcast where I talk to people in the data community. But you didn't come here to hear that specifically from me. You came to hear talk about a portfolio. So here is what we want to do when it comes to gathering and creating a public portfolio. What you want to do is take inventory of all your projects. You want to look at your projects that you have built out, that you have created, and identify what you created for public purposes. So I'm going to put an emphasis on public. You want to make sure that the information that you're showing can be used for public consumption. You do not want to use proprietary data that you use at a organization or that you don't have access to show off. So to alleviate all that, make sure the information that you're showing is public. These could be projects that you've done for personal development, academic research, and then public data sets that are available on the web. Here are some of my favorite websites that are out there that I've used before. One of my favorites is Real World Fake Data. You also have Mockaroo, which is a place where you can kind of create different elements depending on the use case that you're trying to build out. Makeover Monday, Workout Wednesday, Kaggle. This one's a recent one that I found, but data search at research.google.com. You kind of type in a data set that you might be looking for. And then Wikipedia has stuff on there. Don't sleep on Wikipedia, but they have a lot of great stuff on there as well. When it comes to use cases, I like to put them in different buckets. So as someone who's looking for a role, I think you should have two different elements. I think you definitely need to have a professional portfolio. So some of these are industry specific type of dashboards or reports. So you want to have like a healthcare one, a finance, sales, operations. So if you're going for a healthcare job, of course, you're using modified, made up public data, like you can make up patient IDs or hospital names, whatever it is, but you want to make sure that you have a particular use case for that specific industry. So if you're going for that job, once you send that resume and you talk to someone, you could fire off your portfolio that has a healthcare specific dashboard to it. Same thing for finance, sales, operations. And then I like to do personal ones. So for me, it's helped me understand some of the new advanced features that are coming out in the product itself. So whether it's Power BI, Tableau, Looker Studio, or even Excel, for me, these are fun because it kind of breaks up the day in and day out report building that I'm doing. I can look at the new features, and then I'm using personal data that I know that I can kind of learn some of these new things that have come out. And then you can create dashboards that make you happy. Sometimes we just want to build some stuff out that's fun. And then it can be easier to understand fundamental data, storytelling concepts with your personal data. So I like to say sometimes there's a relationship with the data. For me personally, I like sports. So a lot of stuff on my public portfolio under my blog name is like sports related, just because I enjoy doing that. I enjoy looking at different information. I kind of know what's going on. So it's easier for me to translate to the storytelling component in that regard. So here are different ways to host a portfolio, showcase a portfolio. Me personally, I believe having a dedicated website is number one. So whether you have a blog site or you have your first name, last name. So example, if you have Sekou.Tyler or SekouTyler.com or whatever it is, I believe in this day and age, you probably need to have a personal website just so you can easily host stuff on there. If you don't want to have a website, there is GitHub pages that you can leverage. It is a free platform where you can host static images or static websites on there. LinkedIn, as we know, has a lot of people that are posting stuff and highlighting stuff, and you can embed stuff. So LinkedIn is a great place. From Power BI perspective, there is a community website that I'll show you quickly. And then there's Novo Pro as well, which is a new one that I just found, where a lot of BI developers, data analysts are posting stuff on there. So to quickly show you what that looks like from a portfolio standpoint, we go to my website, royalblueanalytics.com portfolio. We see that someone comes in here, they click on portfolio. I already have 4 different visual dashboards that are there. 2 are Tableau, 2 are Power BI. It's right there at the hands. They can actually interact with it. If you don't want to use a personal website, here's what GitHub Pages looks like. Is basically a place you can come and create a static website. There's a lot of stuff out here, a lot of information, and there's a lot of information out on Google. If you want to start using this from a Power BI perspective, this is called Data Stories Gallery. So what this concept is basically you can create a public dashboard visualization and submit your data story onto the Microsoft forums. And then it kind of lives here as a repository of current reports that have been built out. So you can kind of leverage that as a place to host your stuff. But then the new one, as I mentioned, is Novi Pro. So this one's really cool. I think this one's really fascinating. I've seen where multiple people use different products to host different things here. And you kind of set it up, you log in, and then you kind of can get inspiration of what's going on. But then also you can kind of store your information too. You can see who's liked it, so on and so forth. So these are different places where you can actually host your sites, host your dashboards, I should say, using information. So that is platform for hosting. If we're going to look specifically at Power BI, the first step with Power BI is Power BI Desktop. You're going to go to powerbi.microsoft.com, navigate to download section. Caveat here is that it does only work for Windows machines. So if you're using a Mac, you will need to either use a virtual desktop or use Parallels or some way to get Power BI Windows onto your local machine in order to download it. So sorry, Mac users, but that is kind of a caveat here if you're trying to use Power BI Desktop. Once you do have that, you will need to create a Power BI service account. So to ensure you have Power BI service account, you will need a specific domain. Gmail accounts are not able to be used at this moment. So if you do have your website domain, so like I said, SekouTyler at gmail.com. I'm sorry, SekouTyler.com. I could then create a workspace and create a Power BI account that way because I have my own account. From there, you want to actually create a report. So it's very important that you actually create reports there because you're going to have reports, you can't publish them. So make sure you create and generate a report. And then you want to publish it, and then you want to go to embed settings, generate embed code, insert code into the website, just to show you what that looks like. This is what it looks like when you're actually in the workspace. So once you've created a report, there is a link that you can actually use to publish the web. So for this example, I recommend Publish the Web, and as you can see, it is public. So you want to make sure that everything that you are pushing out is public facing and can be downloaded, and there's no interruptions there. And then you will generate a embed code that looks specifically like this. So if you want to do a URL, you have that, or you can do HTML iframe to where you can embed it into your website as well. So just show you what that quickly looks like in your workspace. You have a report. If you go to File, go to Embed Report, Publish to Web, you now see that you have the HTML code that you can copy and paste into your website. So you can embed it. And what that looks like is if I want to connect to my Royal Blue Analytics site, select View. Now I have it here. It's embedded, and I can actually interact with the report itself. So this is what embedding looks like on the website. So that way you can host it. Another way of this is if you don't want to pay for it, you don't want to build out a blog site, you don't want to build a domain, and all you have access to is a Google account, you can use Looker Studio. And Looker Studio is free with a Google account. And to generate it, you just need to have a Google account. And then you go to datastudio.google.com. And it's a similar process as well. You need to create a report, make sure you're using public data, make sure you're bringing in a CSV, an Excel file, whatever it is, to create a report on top of that. And then from there, you can do the exact same concepts where you can embed a report to a website, log in, customize the settings, and then generate embed codes. So what this looks like from Looker Studio is you have the ability to select the embed report, which will generate a code. And then from there, you will embed the code. It will do the exact same iframe that we just saw from Power BI example. And then you have the ability to then pull that into your website if you want to use this technique, or you can just do still images as well. So just to show you what that looks like from a Looker Studio perspective, here is a Kobe Bryant dashboard that I built out. He's my favorite basketball player, so I wanted to recreate it. But say I wanted to come in here and actually publish this to my blog site. If I select Edit, and select Share and select Embed Report, we see now that I have Enable Embedding. So I need to enable it, but then I actually have the code as well. Or if I have just a URL, I don't want to necessarily embed it into my website. I just want to generate the URL. I can do that as well. And then I can dictate the width and height of it on here. So if I want to look at just 600 by 433, or if I want to change the width to be 800 or my height to be 600, I have the ability to do that quickly as well. So this is how you can generate and use different tools at your disposal to build out that portfolio. All right, next, we want to make sure that we prepare our results, prepare our projects for display, ensure that our projects are ready for display, clean the visuals, add descriptions, add information, remove, again, any sensitive or confidential information, make sure it's publicly facing and ready to go, and that you can really show this information, what you're showing off. Create a portfolio page. So if you are using a personal website or GitHub page, just have a separate section there that says portfolio for your Power BI or Looker Studio projects. And then add proper context. The goal is if I hand it off to you, have enough information that the end user who is looking at this can understand what's going on. And then you want to see what problem that you solve or what did you do, what technique, and any additional information that you want to have. You kind of want to have that in your dashboard, in your report to show that information. And then add screenshots to embed a report. So if you go to Power BI route, but then you don't have a service account, it's okay. If you have Power BI desktop, you can embed images of what your thought process is, or your design style, or just have anything in general. But again, I prefer to embed them. I think you should have it. It's much easier to send off a website to someone. They can click around, see your kind of filter actions and just how your brain is with your reporting. But then you want to make sure the visuals are clear, easy to understand. And then if you're embedding it, make sure that it's interactive and allow users to explore the data and really use some of the storytelling techniques. And then publish it. Once you're there, make sure you publish your portfolio. Once you're satisfied with it, make sure you're good, you're happy, and then share it, blast it out, put it into your network, send it to recruiters, send it to hiring managers. What I've done with every single contract or project that I've had, if someone's interested in me, I make sure that I talk to them, but then I also send like, hey, here's a link to my portfolio. Here's a current thing that we're working on. Send it off. That way you can give more additional context to kind of how your style is, and then post it on professional networking sites, relevant forums, and then communities. And then make sure you update regularly. So if you built out a dashboard last year that has 2023 data, or you built out something in 2022, make sure you go back and update the dates. It just makes it look a lot cleaner. And then it also shows, kind of the new things that have come out if you can enhance what you build because of new updates of the product itself. So an example of what a finished product can look like and what I've done before, this is my Sekou.com blog. What I did with Kobe Bryant is the exact same data set, but I embedded it all into the same page. So I have Looker Studio, Google Data Studio in one. I have my Tableau Public portfolio on here as well. And then I have Power BI. And what I did was I wanted to show what the exact same design style storytelling is but I'm using 3 different tools. So by doing this, like, you can easily hand this off, send this to somebody, and then they're able to see kind of your style and then how you interact with different products. So with that, that's all I got. So scan the QR code. I have a PDF pager on here to get my PDF document for the 10 steps that I walk through, and reach out to me if you have any questions.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Sekou. That was awesome. I'll leave the QR code up here for just a second as I address one question, actually kind of a combination of questions. So one thing that did come up in a few questions was just kind of your thoughts on using personal website versus some of the other portfolio sites that are out there. Do you have a personal preference in terms of getting your work published out and exposure to it? What's your thoughts on that, personal versus some of the other portfolio sites?
Yeah, so for me, I'm kind of a control freak about ownership. So I prefer to own as much stuff on my own platform as possible. But then if I'm doing it the right way, if I've embedded it and have a hyperlink out there, I can share it to other stuff as well. But I want people to come to my stuff and they see my information and see kind of my layout and different things. So for me, from that perspective, that's where I lean on. And the investment of having a domain is a worthy one personally. But I'm not against the other sites, but it's for me, I'd rather have it on my own site as well.
Awesome. Perfect. Very cool. Thanks again so much for the session. And I know some folks are asking about links to everything that you shared. Yes, for sure. We'll be sending out a recap, I promise, with everything packaged into it. Also, I think, Brandy, you shared, while Sekou was talking, some links to his content as well. And then be sure to check out his company too. And he's just a great guy to follow and know in the field. So thank you very much, Sekou.
No problem. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Take care. All right.
That was awesome. And so much wonderful content. We're going to keep the ball rolling here. I've talked a bit about my experience, which happens to be in Tableau. So seeing what Sekou was just sharing with Power BI, I think is really fascinating. I don't have a lot of exposure to Power BI. So it's always great to learn. And I think, there was a question in the chat about, do you need to have skills in a lot of different tools? And, it's never bad, but the answer is no, you don't have to. I think, I think Andy's going to address this in his presentation just briefly. So I'm really excited to get to it. Practically everyone in the Tableau community knows Andy Kriebel. And I don't know if he remembers this, but I actually first connected with him just before the 2017 Tableau conference, because he used to organize these morning jogs for anybody who wanted to participate. And so that was actually how I first kind of got connected with him. But he's, just my entire career in Tableau, in the Tableau space, he's been idol. I greatly admire his work, which is why it's super exciting that he's able to be here with us today and share a bit of his knowledge. So, Andy, thank you so much for being here. I'll turn it over to you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. I assume you can hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah,
perfect.
great. Okay, now I need to share my screen. Thank you, everybody, for letting me present to you today. It's always an honor. And I need to share my screen. There we go. Okay, so we're up and running. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Andy Kriebel. I've been using Tableau since April 11th of 2007. I've had a lot of really fortunate things happen to me in my Tableau career. I got to speak at the very first Tableau conference in 2008. There were 125 customers there, or 125 people there. I started the first Tableau user group, started the first 2 community projects in Makeover Monday and Workout Wednesday, first blog, first YouTube channel. What else? Lots of different things. But it's been one of the things I've enjoyed most about the Tableau community is giving back to people and giving freely and not expecting anything in return. And that's what I've done for most of my career. So for those of you that have interacted with me, checked out my visualization, thank you very much. I appreciate it, and it encourages me to keep doing that for other people. But this presentation is about building a Tableau public profile. And to me, one of the most important things about Tableau is the community. So in an effort to be as lazy as possible with building this presentation, I thought I would crowdsource the problem to prove the value of the community. So I put a couple of questions out there, one on Slack and one on LinkedIn. And it was, the first one on Slack is, I'm giving a talk on Friday. What do you wish someone had told you before you started? And then on LinkedIn, in 8 words or less, why should someone build a data viz portfolio? Which is basically my entire presentation. So I got 52 unique people to respond offering advice. And this presentation is my effort to take all of their answers and turn them off as if they were mine. So thank you very much. There were 3 main things that came out of, 3 main themes that came out of all of those responses: skills, career, and community. And those are the 3 things I'm going to take you through. First is skills. There are tons and tons of different ways you can build your skills. And it gets very overwhelming very, very quickly, especially now. When I first started using Tableau, there really wasn't much of there was a community, but there weren't tons of projects and data sets, and there weren't that many people even. So it was much easier to kind of create your own path. Now it's incredibly difficult, and it's when you're new, where do you start? Where do you need to turn? And my advice for you is, first, make a list of skills you want to build, and then just pick one. Focus on one thing. And then once you become really good at that one thing, move on to the next thing. So your first thing might be, I want to get really good at building simple charts. Great. Focus on that. Become really, really good at building simple charts. And by the way, if you're creating dashboards at work, you're going to build nothing but simple charts, most likely. You're going to be building lots of bar charts, lots of line charts, and lots of big numbers. If you get good at those 3 things, you're going to knock out probably 90% of what you need to do at work. And then maybe the next thing you want to do is you want to become really good at calculations. So find resources that are good at teaching calculations. Maybe try Workout Wednesday to get into the more complicated things. And I'm going to go through some of those resources here in a bit. But I'm going to take you through a few portfolios to demonstrate the things that I'm talking about. The first thing you could do is you could develop a style. Now, this is by Ellen Blackburn, who is a consultant at the Information Lab. She went through the data school that I used to run. I should have also mentioned, I was the first ever Tableau user at Coca-Cola, and I think they have 100,000 licenses now. And then I helped start the data school in 2015. Ellen was in our 9th cohort, and it's really, really clear, even just looking at these little tiles from her Tableau public profile, that she has a style. All of her information communicates. It's all very simple, very clear. You see lots of bar charts, lots of line charts, really good use of color. Pastels, which it's just kind of what she's known for. And they all just look really beautiful, really elegant, and really simple. And that's the style that has become part of Ellen's brand. And every visualization she creates will fit in well with this style. You could also develop your skills by becoming more creative. So you have to start somewhere. Everybody starts somewhere, and none of us are any good when we start. So if you look at somebody's Tableau public profile and all you see are incredible visualizations, then they're hiding lots of things. My advice is to never hide anything on your Tableau public profile. Everything that you produce should be unhidden. And you do that because it shows a progression in your work. And I'll get to that in a minute when I talk about careers. But this is by Shreya Arya, who now runs the Back to Viz Basics project along with Eric Balash. And you can see the variety of her visualizations. These are all incredibly unique. Ellen's all look relatively similar, right? The themes are very similar. But Shreya is much more creative from a design perspective, right? There's lots of really different styles of visualizations, much more artistic looking. Shreya also has gone through my training program at the data school. And then you could also use it to learn new techniques. So Serena Perslow, who also went through the data school, if I go back to the very beginning of her profile, you'll see her application to the data school. You'll see some of the things she built in the first couple of weeks. It's nothing like what you're seeing here on the screen. And a lot of her work has been on the focus on developing techniques and skills. So she's looking for specific ways, particularly around calculations. Now, all her visualizations, these all look a lot of them look really fancy, probably hard to build. But the what she's trying to develop is her skill in calculations. And I would encourage you to start by mastering the basics. There's 4 projects. They're all out on the Tableau community. Makeover Monday, which gives you a brand new data set to make over, and a brand new data set every single week. Or sorry, a visualization and a data set every week for you to make over. The idea there is you're going to get to work with different data every week. So it takes you out of one of the benefits of Makeover Monday is it takes you away from the data you're used to seeing every day. And it gives you this kind of free space to try new things. Some people use it as a way to go back and build and start with the basics. Other people use it as a way to create something as visually stunning as they possibly can. So it runs the whole gamut of things there. There's over 400 unique data sets for you to use for Makeover Monday. And a lot of people in the community get their start with Makeover Monday. Of all of the visionaries from Tableau, I think about 60 or 70% of them started with Makeover Monday because it was just a way to easily get involved in the community. Real simple data sets, they're all clean, and you're off to a good starting spot. There's also Back to Viz Basics. And what I really like about Back to Viz Basics is they focus on a particular chart type every week. So I've done it a few times. One of the weeks was build your best bar chart. So I tried to build as many different bar charts as I could with their data set that they provide and see which one I liked the best. And then the next week was line charts, and you needed to build lots and lots of line charts. And then there were spark lines, and there were heat maps, and all these different chart types that are really important for you to get really, really good at. Storytelling with Data is run by Cole Nussbaumer. That is a monthly project where she also gives you a theme and some data set. It's very similar to Makeover Monday, except it's done on a monthly basis. And then I really, really like real world fake data because it gives you lots of examples of dashboards that you can use as templates. So with real world fake data, they give you a data set about a particular topic or a particular industry. So it might be call center data. It might be for sales data. It could be marketing, whatever it might be. They give you a different data set for every time the project runs. I don't remember the frequency of real world fake data. I think it's monthly. But then what's really great is on Tableau, most of these get published off the Tableau Public. And if you just search RWFD on Tableau Public, you'll see this incredible gallery of dashboards that are really useful in different industries. And that's the great thing about it. These are all super useful. You can download them, swap out your data, and use it for a template, and you're off and running. And once you get those once you master the basics, I would then move on to more of the more technical and creative type projects. Do not start at this level because you will get overwhelmed really quickly. So for example, I get messages from people who say, I can't figure out this workout Wednesday, whatever the message might be. And I'm, well, how long have you been using Tableau? Well, I've been using it for 2 weeks. Well, you're going to end up hating Tableau because these challenges are incredibly difficult. They're meant for people that have been using Tableau for a long time. The other projects like Sports Viz Sunday, that's another themed-based community project where it's sports data every week. Iron Quest is a way for you to get feedback on Iron Viz submissions. And Project Health Viz is one to help you, is a way to help visualize healthcare data. And when you look at Tableau Public or you look at Viz of the Day, a lot of times you'll see a lot of really, really fancy visualizations. If you watch Iron Viz or look at any of the entries, they all look like they're just incredible, incredibly difficult to build. Don't let that discourage you because I don't know how to build any of those things. And honestly, I don't care to learn how to build those things. I want to get really good at the things that I'm good at. And other people, they're more than welcome to do that. That's just not my cup of tea. But make sure that you don't compare yourself to those people. Most of them have been using Tableau for a very long time. They're doing this as a one-off project. It's not something that will ever be reused anywhere else. I like to build content that I can reuse or other people can reuse. And then the second topic was careers. And what I'm noticing now is companies are looking less and less at where you went to school and what you studied, and more at what you've actually done. So this is where things like a portfolio come in handy. If I go back to Shreya and Serena and Ellen, if somebody just goes and looks at their Tableau Public profile, they're going to know they've got some serious skills. Do they need to know where they went to school? Probably not. The analogy that I like to give is if you were to hire if you needed to hire an interior designer, would you ever ask an interior designer where they went to school or what they studied? No, you would ask to see their portfolio. And that's the way that it's going with more and more companies. It's now becoming your Tableau Public profile or your Power BI profile, your data visualization profile is now the new CV, the new resume. So here's an example from Priya Padam. She also went through the data school. And you can see, again, she's got lots of variety. If you went out to her Tableau Public or you went out to Tableau Public looking for something with a really big variety of skills, they show excellent technical skills as far as, building business dashboards, lots of creativity, great use of color, a bit of creative flair. She has it all, right? So as soon as, if she ever needs to find a job, all she has to do is send a link out to her Tableau Public profile and say, here you go. Building a profile or a portfolio also helps get you noticed. So people get really excited by getting Visit of the Day, and they should. These are community nominated visualizations that get published by Tableau every day. And I subscribe to it every day. And I like how, I like getting the daily email, because if it's something that I think I might find useful again, I'll go ahead, load it up or click on it and then favorite it so it shows up in my favorites. So you can see in this screenshot I took here, the supermarket analysis by Kisley Benedict. I favorited that one because it's something that either I might want to try to replicate later. I might like to maybe reproduce maybe some of those KPIs, or I want to promote their work. That's why one of the things I like about Visit of the Day. And as I mentioned earlier, you should never delete anything from your Tableau Public profile. This is Lorna Brown's profile, or part of her profile. She has about 300 visualizations on her portfolio now. She started using Tableau in 2015. She was in our second cohort of the data school, and she's now one of the coaches at the data school, one of the lead trainers. And she also is a Tableau visionary, I think 4-time Tableau visionary. And you can see on the left-hand side, these are the first 9 visualizations that she created. Nothing fancy, right? You'll see some bar charts, okay use of color. But even if those first 9, you start seeing a progression in her work. But if you flip over to her more recent visualizations, look how much better they look, how much more space there is, the better use of color. So if somebody wanted to see an example of somebody going from just starting all the way through to what they're doing now, Lorna is a great example of that. And if I were a hiring manager, I would want to see if somebody has shown the ability to learn over time. And also consider creating a gallery. So this is just a GIF of my Tableau Public profile. I publish everything that I do onto Tableau Public because, first off, I'm proud of what I did. And I want other people to be able to use it, to download it, and to replicate some of the things that are in there. But I also keep a Google Photos album. So I take every visualization I create. Yes, it goes up on Tableau Public, but I might have created, 10 or 15 different visualizations to get to that final one. If I'd like some of those, but I didn't actually publish them, I'll take screenshots of them and load them up to a Google Photos album. So I've been doing this Google Photos album for the last, let me see, I think I might even have it on here. I don't. For the last, I think, since 2016. And I have about 1,200 different images on there. Now, it's not 1,200 unique workbooks or pieces of work. Some of them are different visualizations within the same project, but I want to remember how I did things. And if I ever need an example to show somebody, I now have that. So the 2 things there are create a profile on Tableau Public or wherever you need to, but then also create a photo album that you can share with people. I've also seen people use Pinterest to do that as well. And then the third thing that I heard was about community. And the reason you should be a part of a community is because it gives you a safe place to grow. It's a support network that will help you, encourage you, answer your questions. And it's really important that you engage with that community. There's a lot of lurkers, and there's nothing wrong with lurkers, but to get the most out of the community, I would encourage you to engage with it. Publish your own work, ask for feedback, contribute to conversations, reach out to people that inspire you and ask them how they got where they are. And there's several different platforms to do it. These are the ones that are the most popular. So LinkedIn, X or Twitter, Threads, Slack, Tableau Public, the Tableau forums, and of course, my training program, Next Level Tableau. We have our own Slack in there that we also share and support each other. The other thing you can do in the community is be a leader. So these are 8 people that all went through the data school. And each of them started without knowing anything about Tableau. But they became really involved with the community. They wanted to share the work that they did. They developed great technical skills. And they were overall, very supportive of people. And all 8 of them became Tableau visionaries. So I already answered the question, but what do they all have in common? Well, they went through the data school, my training program. They've come up with, and they now have some incredible jobs. So Nico, who's right in the very middle, not with the bushy beard, but the one next to him, he now works for UNICEF, used to work for the United Nations. Bethany on the bottom left in the striped shirt, she's now the head coach for the data school in Australia. You've got Gwilym in the very back center. He runs analytics at ASDA. We have Ravi Mistry, who's over there somewhere. Yeah, they're on kind of on the right-hand side there. He's the head of football analytics at Manchester City. Several of them work at Tableau as consultants now. So it's been really, really fun for me to see these people develop and to help lead them through that process. And then, of course, you need to think about the long-term benefits for yourself. As you build a portfolio, you're going to notice that jobs start coming to you. You're not really going to need to apply for jobs because headhunters now know where to look. They're going to see your profile and say, wow, this person has fantastic skills. It might give you the opportunity to live abroad or to work remotely. It'll free you up to have the lifestyle that you want. You'll have much more choice in leading your life the way you want. You'll find your people. You're going to find people that you have lots in common with. You're going to develop amazing skills. You're going to make friends for life. The Tableau conference for me is like a family reunion. And most of all, it's way too much fun and it's highly addictive. But I have a couple of caveats I want to leave you with. There's a few things you need to remember. Make sure if you're using somebody else's work as inspiration that you give them credit. On Tableau Public, when you upload a visualization, there is a spot on the bottom left-hand side where you can paste in the link of somebody that has inspired you. Please do that. Give people credit. For myself, I created the visual vocabulary. If you search Tableau Public, there's hundreds of copies of it out there. Almost none of them gave me credit for that. So if somebody doesn't know any better, they might think that that person created it. But ultimately, do it for yourself. As I mentioned, don't delete everything. Everybody started somewhere, so be careful of imposter syndrome. And one thing that's really started bothering me lately is people writing stuff, and you can tell it's clearly from ChatGPT. If I see you writing with lots of emojis and certain word structures that probably aren't very normal, and especially if I already know something about you and I know it's not the way that you talk, that really makes you look bad. Most importantly, have fun. My last piece of advice, my best advice for all of you is you need to just get started. But I want you to become so good at Tableau that you don't need my help anymore. And that's why I've created the Next Level Tableau training program. And I guarantee your success. If you join the program and you put in all of the work required to get to the level you want, then I will, and you don't get to the level you want, then I'll give you your money back, guaranteed, no questions asked. But we will have a chat about what is the effort that you put in, right? You need to put in the work to get to the level that you want to get to. And you might ask, well, why would you give this guarantee? Well, because I'm confident. I've seen my training program work. I've just shown you evidence of that. And here's some of the things you get. And I think Brandy just put a link in the on the live stream there. But you get live training with me 4 times a week or 3 times a week. You get access to all of the workshops I run once a month, office hours, on-demand training, hundreds of workbooks and data sources, progress tracking, We're developing Credly badges. And most importantly, it's what it's about, what's in it for you. So you get expert-led training, a really comprehensive learning program, ways to apply everything that you're learning, which is very important. It's an interactive and engaging format. We've built an incredibly supportive community, and the community is actually creating itself, which has been really, really fun to watch. So if you're interested, go to nextleveltableau.com. And I also write a weekly newsletter, which you can get at andykriebel.com. That's not necessarily Tableau specific. It's much more around data. So thank you very much, Brandy and Dustin.
Dustin's muted.
Classic.
Yeah, I know, right? It wouldn't be a live stream without that.
Thank you so much, Andy.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
Thank you.
That was awesome. Very cool. Very active chat. Lots of comments, and everyone loved it. So very cool. I think we'll pull you off the screen for now, and then Brandy, we will keep things going here. I'm going to switch over to the data jobs report. Let me start sharing my screen. Was there anything that you wanted to share in between?
Yeah, why don't you get the screen share set up there?
Yep.
So this next segment is the data jobs report. As you know, Dustin co-hosts the Data Career Summit with me, but he's actually been putting together his data jobs report for over 4 years. And it's one of the major catalysts behind why we decided to create this Data Career Summit. So I'm really excited for him to share the latest results. Take it away.
Perfect. Thank you, Brandy. You can still hear me okay, right? Perfect. Okay, awesome. So as Brandy mentioned, I've been working on this data jobs report for about 4.5 years. So I actually started this in 2019, and I started it because I was a manager of analytics at the time, and the field was starting to kind of grow and hit this inflection point. And a lot of folks were asking me, hey, how can I get into the field? Like, what do I need to learn to get into the field? Like, how should my son or daughter get the skills that they need to get into the field? Folks were starting to ask me, how do I put position descriptions together for analyst positions? And so I thought, being a data person, logically, I want to start taking a look at what the data says about it. So I started twice per year grabbing 100 job position posting, and these are data analytics job postings from kind of major corporate sites, things Fortune 500 companies, job sites, major career sites, scraping the data and putting into a database, key attributes from those postings. Think of hard skills, the education requirements, the experience requirements, things like that, so that I could see over time, I could have a pulse point over time of what the market was looking for all of these things in the positions that were being posted. And over time, I started to realize, this would be, I think, valuable to others. And I'm just going to start making this available publicly. And that was actually one of the first things that got Brandy and I talking about the Career Summit and how we could take this kind of stuff a step further and bring in other experts to provide their guidance on how you can action some insights like this and actually get positions in the field. So that was kind of the background. I'm going to go really quickly, just since we're a couple minutes behind schedule here. I want to make sure I get us back on track. I do have a comprehensive report that's going to go out to all of the paid participants for today. We'll send that out right after the summit. That's in like a document format, but I have just kind of some slides in here to give a preview of some of the key insights from it. And what I'll do is, because I'm going to shorten this presentation, I'm actually going to share, my commitment here is to share out a snapshot of each of these slides. That's a preview of the key findings from that report out on social media over the next few days. So I'm going to go really quick through them, but know that I'll also share a snapshot of them out on my LinkedIn in the next few days. So 5 overall trends I want to touch on. The first is SQL and data visualization were the top 2 skills mentioned in job postings, data and analytics job postings by a significant margin. And I'll show you exactly what that looks like in just a second, numbers wise. Across the positions, so I surveyed 100 positions, 145 unique skills were mentioned across those 100 positions, but the 80-20 rule very much applied. And you're going to see, you actually might have seen, I posted a word cloud out yesterday of all of the skills that were mentioned in these position postings. But guess what? There were some big words that popped in that word cloud if you saw it. So there was definitely several skills that were mentioned over and over again. and probably are going to be some of the skills, especially if you're just getting started, that you want to focus on learning initially. Having experience in a certain industry, be it healthcare, or manufacturing or whatever, it definitely is helpful. I do see industry related experience listed in analyst positions. It's, sometimes required, but definitely is listed as preferred fairly often. It's actually as a required skill. You'll see in one of the next slides, it's the number 7 skill that's required, but it's the number 1 skill that's listed in the preferred or nice to have section. And then Python experience. This one kind of actually bounces around in the report a little bit, or at least has over the last few reports that I've published. But it's definitely a nice to have. I see it mentioned in a lot of position postings. It's the number 4 most mentioned in terms of required, but it's the number 2 in terms of preferred. So I kind of read this Python as it's a nice to have, and I'll give a little bit more of a take on that in a second too. One takeaway as well, just salary wise, one nice thing is that companies are starting to put more and more kind of the salary range for positions at the bottom of them. If it's in the United States, there's some states that actually require this. So I've been able to start, I wasn't able to do this in the beginning when I started this report, but I've started to scrape the low end and high end salary range on positions that do make it available and bring that data into my report as well. So we've got some fun stuff we can look at with that. Big takeaway here, though, even just amongst these few bullet points is, and across all the data I looked at, that ability to get the data, think SQL, work with it, transform it, SQL to some extent Python, right? Analyze it, data visualization tools, Excel, even to some extent Python, and then tell a story with it. Andy mentioned earlier Cole and her data storytelling with data programs that she has and books that she has. The ability to get the data, analyze it, tell a story with it. To me, having read through hundreds and hundreds of these position descriptions, and have been a practitioner for over 10 years in the field, that is really what I feel companies are looking for from data analytics positions. Let me know, I guess, in the comments what you think about that statement. I'd love to hear your perspective too. Let's take a really, really quick look because we're 6 minutes past our ideal time here for the summit, staying on schedule. These are the top 10 skills that I saw in terms of the frequency of how often they were mentioned in position postings. You see SQL popping way up over the last 4.5 years. We're looking at first half of 2020 through current time frame. We got Tableau number 2, Excel number 3, Power BI number 4, and I put a comment of just strong demand continues for those data visualization tools in Excel. Definitely have lifted up kind of post COVID. Here's Python, number 5, stats. A lot of references to different statistical terms and position descriptions, predictive modeling, forecasting, all kinds of stuff that requires a baseline knowledge of statistics appearing in job postings pretty frequently. Industry experience, mentioned it was number 7 overall, but was by far the most mentioned preferred skill. And I'll show you these word clouds in just a second of both required and preferred skills. Are still hanging around, still mentioned oftentimes as, Python or R, Python and or R as a required skill or preferred. So sometimes I see those tied together and align in the position description. Data storytelling, again, being able to take those insights and tell a story with it. I see a lot of comments, even if they don't call out data storytelling in position descriptions, a lot of comments that are similar to something like the ability to take insights and use them to convince, an executive team of something, or to, influence stakeholders or things like that. Even if they don't call out data storytelling directly, a lot of verbiage that kind of gets at that concept. So definitely something I recommend. You kind of polish your skills around as an analyst, and there's some great resources out there. Cole, actually, who wrote Storytelling with Data, was a previous keynote at the Data Career Summit, and her keynote is actually on our YouTube channel if you want to take a look at that. And then other data visualization tools are kind of wrapped into that last one. There are many others out there. I'll bring up the word cloud. I already shared this one out on LinkedIn yesterday. Here you see that 80-20 rule kind of in action. You see the 145 different skills that were listed across those 100 positions I surveyed this last time. But you see some big ones pop in there, and we just talked about several of those. And then in terms of, there's always that required section, that oftentimes a preferred section in a job posting. This is just taking a look at what the words are that are in the preferred section of those job postings. And you can see industry experience pops to the top there. And so, if it's a healthcare analyst job, maybe it's healthcare experience. If it's a logistics industry job, maybe it's, they want experience from someone that's been in the logistics industry, et cetera. Oftentimes does pop as a preferred skill. And then if I were to combine all of the data visualization tools together, Tableau, Power BI, and then other viz tools, and put them all into one, and then re-rank the top 5, this is what it looks like if I combine all the data viz tools together. So actually 67% of the positions I looked at this last time required some type of data visualization experience or some type of experience with a data visualization tool. So that was actually number 1 when I re-rack these that way. And then it goes SQL, Excel, Python, and stats. Another cool thing I can do, and I'll share some snapshots of this out on social as well, is I've started over the last 3 reports to be able to pull together those low and high salary ranges for positions that do indeed make it available. And then what I can do is I can actually put it out onto a fun scatter plot like this, and I can take a look at where positions land low salary and high salary range, and then kind of segment them, as more entry level versus more senior level. I've done that with the gold and the gray dots here. And then we can start to take a look at what's the average low and high salary range based on the seniority level. For analyst positions, I mentioned this has remained really strong to me in terms of US dollars and pretty consistent. That low end range came in this last time at 83K, high end range at 121K. I have insights on all the other seniority levels as well in that more comprehensive report I mentioned, but I did want to touch on this just to show what it looks like totally objectively for the data analyst roles that I take a look at, or those with similar titles to data analyst. And then I did want to touch on, just in closing here, there's a lot of questions around, do you need a degree? Don't you need a degree? Over time, you can see back here in first half of 2020, there was very few positions that did not require a degree. Most of them did. It has changed a little bit and kind of plateaued in the last year and a half or so. So we've got about a third of positions now not requiring it. But I will say that one thing I've noticed is there's more verbiage around the degree section of position descriptions. So it may say bachelor's degree required, and then something to the effect of, but for the right candidate, we may consider that in lieu of experience and things like this. So that's something I want to analyze more, but I am seeing just more statements and words around the degree section of position descriptions, which I think is going to be a very, very critical and interesting thing to watch in the next couple of years here. I do agree with Andy's statement that if you do great work, probably doesn't matter where you went to school, but that's just my perspective. All right. I finished that about as quickly as I could, Brandy. I'm gonna catch my breath for a second, bring you back up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's great.
Okay.
People absolutely love the insights that you're able to glean and pull together. So I guess a few things to note there. Dustin, as Dustin mentioned, he's going to be sharing out the slides from today's presentation on LinkedIn. So make sure you go out to LinkedIn and follow him. And then I believe he put together a whole full report, and we're going to be sending that out to all the folks who have a paid registration for today's event. So you'll definitely get insights, even if you opted for the free version. But if you did pay for the event today, you're going to get the full report with even more insights. So thank you for that, Dustin. And next up, we have our next segment titled Business Use Cases to Make Your Mark. So business use cases really bringing together not only your technical skills, but being able to apply it and add value through data. So Dustin, I'm going to turn it over to you to introduce our next speaker.
Perfect. Thank you, Brandy, and welcome, Cait. I did want to, first of all, actually, I will warn you, I think you're on mute right now, but I don't know if you were planning to. There you go.
I am in mute. Yeah.
Yes. So anyways, so first of all, welcome. This is, I think, the perfect segment to follow kind of that data jobs report and then talking about building the portfolios as we were doing earlier, because this session is all about thinking about how you can make your mark today, regardless of what position you're in. You don't have to be in an analyst position. You could be in a project manager position. You could be in a customer service position. You know, what are some things that you can start to do with some of the tools that are out there that are in some cases free or inexpensive, you know, to start making your mark, to start doing a data project. And so Cait is going to be the first person that's going to talk and give her thoughts on this. Cait is actually someone that I have had the privilege of being like kind of a co-guest with, I guess, in some classes on data and analytics and stuff. And that's how we met each other and have some similar, you know, some mutual contacts in the field. And so Cait is actually a trainer for Lovelytics and teaches people business use cases and functionality of all the popular tools all day long. And so I couldn't think of a better person to come and talk on this topic. So thank you, Cait, and I'll turn it over to you.
Awesome. Super excited to be here. I think I just shared my screen, maybe. There we go. So yeah, as Dustin mentioned, my name's Cait. It's an absolute pleasure to be here with y'all. I'm a lead trainer at Lovelytics, and in the next 10 or less minutes, I'm actually going to cover a quick overview of one tool out of a host of tools in the space called Alteryx. So in the next couple minutes, gonna go through a quick overview of Alteryx, introduce a use case, share a quick demo, and leave you with some follow-up resources that I will share as well as put in the chat. So feel free to put any questions you have in the chat, and I will absolutely try my best to get to answer at least one or two of them at the end. Please also feel free to add me on LinkedIn. Would love to connect with y'all. And if you have specific follow-up questions, happy to address those there. So first things first, what in the heck is Alteryx? Alteryx is a cloud-based ETL tool that enables reliable and trustworthy analytics. So during this summit, you have heard about already and likely will continue to hear a lot about front-end data roles. So in visual analytics platforms like Tableau or Power BI, or doing other front-end type of work, which is absolutely super important, amazing aspect of a career that you could have in the data space more broadly. But there's an entirely separate effort that happens on the back end that goes into getting data ready to be analyzed or viewed. Justin just shared about how SQL, Python, R, right? These skills really, really hot still in the market. So broadly speaking, we think of these efforts into data organization and preparation referred to as data engineering or data architecture. So why Alteryx? Well, Alteryx falls into this back-end category as its primary purpose is to establish repeatable procedures for cleaning and preparing data for analysis. Alteryx is an amazing product, and there are many reasons that it would be like a tool of choice for data engineers. But three big reasons, huge reasons, are how easy it is to use compared to doing things by hand, either in Excel or maybe coding something in SQL or Python. How simple it is for multiple people within an organization to leverage it collectively for data cleaning and preparation needs, and its advanced capabilities that are built right in. So not needing additional tools or platforms or efforts to do things like advanced analytics, geospatial analytics, building machine learning models. And again, because of the functionality or structure of the product, you don't necessarily need to be an expert in SQL, Python, or R. As it turns out, I personally actually learned SQL while becoming an expert in Alteryx. The just visual interface that Alteryx has, which I'll show in just a second, really made it easy for my brain to kind of connect the dots between coding or typing something out in SQL and being able to see that operation happen visually in the interface. So the use case that we're going to consider is one that will hopefully speak kind of broadly as it's one that pretty much any company would have. And that is going to be an FP&A reconciliation. So we're going to use Alteryx to perform balance sheet reconciliations. Without Alteryx, this is usually a pretty painstaking process to do in Excel and leaves the door open for a lot of human error to pop up. So we'll be bringing to together data from multiple sources, setting up cleaning operations that will be automatically applied in the future, ensuring that we've built in safeguards to ensure data accuracy, and making the results available for analysis. So let's get into that demo. So Alteryx has the ability to perform over 300 operations through drag and drop objects that it refers to as tools. And these tools are arranged into palettes that have similar functions. Our first step will always be to bring in data, which we'll do through an input step. I'll drag it into my flow, and then I'll click to set up the new connection. Alteryx natively supports connections to dozens of types of data sources like Amazon Redshift or Salesforce. In this case, I've already connected to 2 of my data sources, but I also need to connect to my liabilities Excel file from my computer local file here. So I'll click OK, and I can see that the new data is now ready for use in Alteryx. So seeing that preview of the data here over on the left-hand side. We'll use a join step to bring our first 2 tables together that contain our assets and liabilities data. We're going to join on the common field ID, and if I click on the join step here, I can actually see that the join has been established. From here, we'll use 3 tools in the preparation tool palette: a data cleansing tool, a formula tool, and a select tool. With the data cleansing tool, Alteryx is giving us a lot of cleaning operations completely out of the box, like the ability to remove unwanted blanks, letters, numbers, etc. In this case, we're also having Alteryx replace any missing data with blanks or zeros. From here, I then need to add a formula step in order to calculate my total asset and my total liability. To do this, I'm dragging a formula tool into my flow. From here, I'm going to write 2 calculations that will behave as if they were columns in my original data set. One called total assets, that's adding together values from my government debt, other government securities, coin and bullion, other securities, and notes in the bank column. So typing those in and using that addition operator here. And then I'll select the data type that I want. In this case, double, that's allowing for up to 8 values here, 8 characters, if you will. From here, I'm going to add a second calculation. So that was total assets. I'm adding a second one that's going to give me my total liabilities. So this one is going to add together the values here for notes in circulation, liabilities, notes in the bank, capital, rest, deposits, other public deposits, other special deposits, other bankers' deposits, and other accounts, along with 7-day and other bills. Again, in this case, not going to go into the nuance of, FP&A for those that aren't familiar, but just wanting to give us an example of what it looks like to create calculations using a formula tool. With that finished, I now have my select tool that's letting me choose which columns for my data set I need moving forward. I don't need the other accounts or 7 days and other bills columns, so I've unchecked those to make sure they don't appear in my finished data. From here, I'm joining the prepared assets and liabilities data with our audit data, and then I'm setting up a series of tools that will ensure that in the future, our assets and liabilities data always gets checked against our audit data and produces accurate results. So this means that rather than having to spend a ton of time reading through each row by hand, we can have Alteryx do this for us, so it's more effective, more accurate, and more efficient. The last step here is we're adding an aggregate step where we're rolling up row level values, so we're left with just 1 row per transaction ID. Then I have another formula tool where I have 3 calculations that are running my double checks. The first is verifying that total assets in our clean data matches the total assets coming from our audit data set. Second does the same for total liabilities. And the third is actually flagging if either our assets or our liabilities values don't match. Then I'm going to add a filter step that's separating our values into the ones that are flagged or not flagged. If the values are flagged, we're going to output them as an Excel file so we can investigate them further. And if they're not flagged, meaning that our data matches our audited data values, we're going to make that data available for visualization in Tableau. All of this is done with the final step through output steps, which allow other people in our organization to have access to the data. The most amazing thing about all of this is that we have created a flow. So what you're seeing here is a series of steps that Alteryx will repeat automatically for us whenever this flow gets scheduled to run. Completely hands-off, Alteryx is going to pull in the newest data, clean and validate the data in the same way that I've specified, and output the cleaned and updated data. So I actually never have to go through this cleaning process again. The data is always going to be ready whenever I need it. So overall here, Alteryx, super powerful tool for cleaning and preparing data. For y'all, as you're thinking about careers or making career transitions, the idea of working really closely with the data to get it ready for analysis intrigues you, I definitely recommend giving Alteryx a try. They offer a completely free trial. I think it's like 2 weeks or a month, but completely free of cost. They also provide a lot of amazing hands-on challenges, which you've heard from both Sekou and Andy. Really great way participating in community challenges to actually give you an opportunity to learn the tool in a sort of simulated real-world setting. And Alteryx also offers a full library of free video tutorials, and you can even get certified for free. So it's a really great opportunity to build out your resume alongside building out a portfolio to demonstrate expertise in the tool. So I really appreciate y'all's time. I am going to right now copy and paste these links into the chat. I'm sure that this slide deck at some point will make its way available for y'all, but in the meantime, please feel free to, not letting me post that, but I'll post it here in just a second in the comments, and feel free to give those a look. But any questions? I know we probably only have time maybe for one question, or just scoot on along. But again, if anybody has any questions, please add me on LinkedIn. I'd love to continue the conversation, and I'll hop back into the chat here momentarily and respond to any comments that folks have. Thanks so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Cait, and I know folks will appreciate you joining the chat. There were some questions, and it'll be awesome to have you there. So thank you very much, and great job.
Thank you so much, Cait. Yeah, I did drop a few links to Alteryx's Sparked, which they actually have an independent learners program that allows you to get free access to Alteryx and start playing around, especially as you're like transitioning into a new career or into the data career. So check that out. I'll also be including that in our recap email that's going to be going out later today. So we'll make sure that you get on if you've registered, I'll make sure that you get that email. But next up, we have John Heisler, who's also going to be giving us a presentation. Every presentation during this event is short and sweet, but John's going to be giving us a short presentation as well. But John and I met actually pretty early in our careers, and I think we've both seen each other grow and evolve professionally. I consider him an advisor, and whether he wants to admit it or not, we're friends. And so I'm really excited that John's here to share his, incredible depth of knowledge with you all today. John, welcome.
Awesome.
Hey,
Thanks
John.
for those kind words. Excited to speak with you today. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen right out of the get-go here. I don't need to see those tips. Sorry, I just tried this earlier. There we go. Share screen. So thanks for the time today. I'm going to talk through how to position your experience, right? So a lot of us are transitioning. A lot of us are looking for a move from an individual contributor role up. How do you position the experiences that may not represent on paper exactly what the responsibilities are of the role that you want? So this is a, kind of alchemy that we need to accomplish. But before we even get there, I want to say thank you, right? So Brandy and Dustin, you've put together a phenomenal set of content. I'm humbled and grateful to be amongst all of the great leaders who have spoken today about their experiences in the data field. And thank you to all of you. Time is the only sort of resource that we can't get back. So you spending that time with us today is a great testament to the value that this is hopefully bringing to the community. So we're going to talk about career transitions, lessons from the wild, things that I've taken from my experience that you don't need to make those same mistakes. I can share sort of the things that I've learned as I've moved through my career. We're going to talk about mapping current to future experiences. Again, a real focus on something that's not adjacent, or that is adjacent to or completely on paper irrelevant for the career that you're looking to transition into or grow into. And then we're going to talk about engineering the experience, which is not a fancy way to say lie, but more so a way to build the experiences in scenarios that you may not get traditional data or analytics experience. So here's kind of the vibe. Here's what I want to kind of set the tone. So your experience is the most relevant asset you have, whether you're just starting your career, you've started a career and are looking to transition, or you're currently on your data career and want to move up or across in the data field. Now, it is your responsibility and your responsibility only to understand how to position and leverage those experiences for what you want to happen. So that's what we're going to try to sort of put over this entire conversation. If you remember nothing else, this is what I want you to take home. So let's talk a brief meandering history of sort of my career. So I started off in neuroscience, really focused on, the neurological mechanisms of learning and memory. So super, super nerdy. Found out that we were going to have our first kiddo while I was in the process of interviewing for graduate school, and got some really sage advice to, hey, consider this data science and data and analytics journey. I made that pivot from neuroscience into the SQL analyst role. And then I meandered all around in the data field before where I ended up today. So went to database administration. I was at a startup, so I got a lot of experience sort of administrating the database. I built a data warehouse, focused a lot on data engineering, and then I got into data science, went back to graduate school, kind of focused on IT management and data science. I got into consulting, and then within that consulting career, sort of moved my way up into leadership, both leading a team, but then also leading a practice around our technology. And then most recently moved back to an individual contributor role at a vendor in Snowflake. So as you can see there, sort of like I had vertical sort of movement, I've had horizontal movement, and I want to talk to you today specifically around this first transition, right? So how did you go from neuroscience to analyst, right? How did you go from managing a retail branch to having a SQL analyst job? How did you go from insert career here to whatever career you want? So as I talk today about very specific neuroscience examples, I want to challenge you to translate that experience to what is your current experience right now? And then the SQL analyst position, think about the position that you want in the next, short term, medium term. So that's what I want you to think about. Not everyone here is probably going to be in a neuroscience role, looking for a SQL analyst role. Again, I'm asking you to take these lessons and then apply the same logic to your career. So let's talk about the first piece, which is just the mapping of skills, right? How did I move from focusing on brains to, leveraging translate into, or how did I speak to, or how did I write about this when I was focusing on trying to get that first role in data? So experimental analysis, taking the results of an experiment and analyzing them. So on paper, looking at that, I was like, how am I possibly going to convince somebody that the results of, behavioral animal research, is going to translate into telling, a statistics piece for business. And it's really statistical analysis. A repeated measure t-test can happen in the business. It can happen in science. Those skills were very, very translatable. So I came up with stories to sort of say, hey, listen, I had this, experiment where we repeated our measures. That's very similar to looking at A/B testing in marketing. NSF conference, going and presenting the findings of my research. So the ability to build a predictive model, understand LLMs, push that type of complexity down into a solution is one thing. Being able to translate the results of something that's hyper sophisticated and hyper complex to people that only care about business outcomes is perhaps one of the most important things that you can learn how to do. How can I take what I just did that's super nerdy and super data centric, and how do I translate that to a business value? So what I did was I said, hey, listen, this is a very, very important skill to translate complex concepts to impacts to audiences. Academic article publication. I was lucky enough to work with several very talented folks that were publishing articles in eminent publications. And so I was able to kind of sit and learn from them and even write some of the methods, some of the analyses for them. So translate that, excellent technical writing skills, right? So my ability to write an academic journal for Snowflake is probably pretty low, but my ability to write very intelligently and technically about what I'm building and how I'm sort of using the technology, pretty important. Experiment management. So coming up with the experiment, coming up with the path of, I have to do this, I have to test here, I have to, harvest here, and I need to analyze here. That's project management, right? So easy to sort of paint the picture between that experiment management and project management. And maybe the most important piece here is I was able to make a very clear case that, hey, I have a deep understanding of a very complex thing in molecular neuroscience. If I can understand that, I think it's going to be pretty easy, or not easy, but that's a displayed ability to understand something very complex. If I can do that, I can do this data piece. So again, you may not be in a neuroscience role or in something like that, but hey, if I can do this, I can easily handle this. That's kind of a tectonic case that you need to make. Engineer the experiment or the experience. So engineer opportunities in your current position or just your life to develop the skills for your future position. So this at its highest level is gathering data, analyzing it, and sharing the insights on anything in your current role or anything in your life. One of the first managers that I had built a database for his church and was sharing back information about the membership, right? Super, super helpful. He was developing skills. He was adding value to the business, or sorry, to the church. And he was sort of very easily and passively developing his skills. So a couple of ideas. Build a dashboard for your management. What's important to them? Do they care about last year numbers for this particular day? Ask if you can have access to the data. Build them a dashboard, right? You're going to get those skills. Automate your team's Google calendars with Python, or your own Google Calendar for that matter. So just so you can see where are the available times within the schedule so that I can help people find replacements for, absences, something like that. Analyze your company's Twitter followers, right? Or any company's Twitter followers. I'm not sure how open the X platform is, but when I was learning, Twitter was super open, and I was able to work with a local company to say, hey, listen, a lot of people are also following this company. Maybe you should think about tweeting them or, pushing out some content that hits them so that you get to access to a lot of their followers as well. So this is that last point. Build a database for your gym, build it for your church, do anything to help those organizations make better decisions with data. They're going to benefit from it. You're going to benefit from it. So it's a rising tide type of situation. All right, so call to action. Then I have one last slide. Again, I wanted to move really quick through this. I don't have a blog. I don't put out a lot of content outside of LinkedIn. It's the season of life that I'm in. Got 3 kids, a lot of responsibilities. I do post a lot on LinkedIn, and I'm very active there. So that, for my season of life right now, is where I push a lot of my content. Hopefully it's helpful. The other side of that is reach out directly there. I'm happy to have conversations, happy to help you sort of make those transitions. Hey, how would I encapsulate these experiences into getting a new position in the data field? Again, I've traveled, horizontally and vertically through, multiple fields. I'd be happy to share any of my experiences. In the last set of universal lessons that I'll leave you with, and I'll share this document. So identifying your strengths and maximizing the time that you spend using them. I really, really, really wanted to be good at programming. I'm pretty good at programming, but I'm not the best Python programmer. So for years, I pushed myself to be, find these positions where I would be doing that. And that's not what I'm best at. What I'm best at is communicating complex concepts, working with, analytics. That's what I was best at. I needed to maximize my time doing that. And since I've done that, I've had a much more valuable, and I think been able to deliver much more value to the company. So nothing changes if nothing changes. If you're not getting the results that you want and you're doing the same thing over and over and over, chances are you're doing something wrong. So you need to sit and be honest with yourself about what you're doing, how you're delivering, before you actually sort of say, hey, this is not worth it. So nothing changes if nothing changes. This is probably the most important piece, surrounding yourself with people who make you better because they are excellent, or because they demand excellence out of you, or because they deeply care about you. I don't care what it is, but surrounding yourself with the people that make you better is maybe one of the easiest things that you can do. And it's going to be one of the most impactful. And the last piece is, even as you progress through your career, you gain experiences. If you're a little nervous, that's a good thing if your goal is to progress, right? So if you're completely confident in everything you do from like 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., you are probably not progressing. If you are a little nervous about your ability to deliver, you're probably in the right place. You shouldn't be terrified, right? That's not a pleasant experience either. But if you're just a little bit nervous, that's a good indication to you that you're making progress and moving forward versus just stagnating. So those are the universal lessons, independent of those business use cases. All right. I think that's it for me.
Thanks so much, John. That was phenomenal. We just, I think everybody, loved the vibe slide. So really appreciate you've set a high bar now for us. So thanks for that.
I'll bring this one comment up that I think summarizes all of our thoughts and feelings on that session, John. Great job. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. All right, cool. All right. It's hard for me to pull people off the screen because these are such great sessions. Like I'm having such a fun time myself learning from them. So it's hard to pull people off. It's hard to click the button, Yeah,
absolutely. But it sounds like we've got, it's time for our giveaway, right?
Yes.
So let's briefly do that. And then we're going to get into our next panel discussion.
For sure. Yep. Okay. So it is time for the giveaway. So we had a generous donation from Maven Analytics, and they've done this multiple times before. So if you have a chance to check them out or say thank you to them, I'm sure they would appreciate that. They gave away 2 full year memberships, pro level memberships to their Maven Analytics platform. I think these are valued around $360 or so. So this is a really nice giveaway. I have 2 winners randomly chosen from our giveaway tool. And so if your email address starts with HCAULEY05, you are the first winner. And if your email address starts with ASHAIK, you are the second winner. I will follow up with both of you and our contact at Maven Analytics immediately following the Career Summit so that you can get your full year subscription. Congratulations to both of you.
Yeah, that's really exciting. Awesome. And a huge thank you to Maven Analytics for, offering that to 2 of our lucky attendees. So,
absolutely. Awesome. All right. I'm going to go ahead and bring Tara and Brian up here. Hey, Tara and Brian.
Hi.
Yep. So this panel is called Impressing the Hiring Manager, How to Position Yourself. And we wanted to put this together because, for a lot of reasons, but mainly because we get questions, all kinds of questions around, hey, how do I even get to know people that are hiring managers? Or if I submit an application to a job, should I try to aggressively find out who the hiring manager is and ask them questions directly? Is it appropriate to do that? What about, after I'm given an interview and I see who the panel is, should I reach out to people? All kinds of questions around this. And so we wanted to bring together 2 experts along with Brandy and myself who have both been hiring managers ourselves to kind of talk about this topic. Brandy and I will kind of co-moderate this, and we really want to focus on Brian and Tara's expertise here. But Tara and Brian are both senior leaders in the field. They have both extensive experience as practitioners as well as have led and managed and hired teams. So the perfect folks to come and talk about this topic and give practical advice. They'll start with Tara, just to introduce Tara a little bit more. Tara is currently First VP, Senior Director of Data Strategy and BI at Alliant Insurance Services in San Diego. We sure are jealous of you being in San Diego right now. Not all of us are in warm weather climates, but very cool. I've worked with Tara in the past, and she just does amazing work. And it's been awesome to see her career progress to where she's at now. And I'm sure is going much higher too. Brian is someone I followed for a long time on LinkedIn. I know many of you know him from his LinkedIn content, but Brian has decades of experience in leading teams, hiring analysts, and it's just been a senior leader in the field for long before many of us knew him on LinkedIn, and both public and private sector experience. So welcome both of you to the panel.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Yes. Glad to have you here. And then I'll kick it back to, now I'm going the other way. Brandy, you're on the other side of the screen. I'm kicking it to Brandy for the first question. Yeah.
Dustin practiced his pointing earlier today, and then, we mixed it all up. Well, obviously really excited to have you both here. We have many questions from lots of folks, but we're going to start with one of our own, which is what hiring managers kind of really care about. Is it checking every box on that position description, right? There's lots of people who are kind of like, oh, you're asking for like 6 years of experience. Can I apply if I don't have that? And then maybe if there's any other factors that you consider when kind of, looking at resumes or deciding on maybe who you might want to have an interview with. And then if there are maybe any examples that come to mind as well. Tara, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, of course. That's a really good question. I think typically when you think, okay, what should I focus on? What do hiring managers care about? You think my experience needs to perfectly match the job description, and I need to have the degrees and the years and the types of roles and the experience. That is not what I really care about as a hiring manager. So for me, one of the most important things I look for is a clear, concise story. So what I mean by that is, what are you looking for? Like, where are you coming from? Where are you now? And what are the goals you have? And being able to tell that story through. So for me, I'm not necessarily required, you have to have the college degree. Maybe that was a decade ago when you were switching fields. I don't have those boxes where if you don't match every single criteria of the job posting. I look at people that have a clear story, enthusiasm, passion, and want to grow in the field that they're looking for or in the role that they're applying to. So I think it's good to have some of the experience on the position that you're looking for, but no, more than anything, a clear story is what I look for.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. And obviously Brian dropped off, but because he was having difficulties unmuting. And so he'll be joining us back in a second. But yeah, I think
sometimes
that's
have problems unmuting, but my button works though. So I think Brian's unmute button was not working.
Yeah, got you. No, I think that's really great. And I guess maybe a follow-up to that is, how does somebody convey their passion? Right. I think especially when they, their first interaction with you really is through an application process, right? Like, how might they overcome, whether it's an automated system that's like reviewing resumes or anything like that? Like, do you have any thoughts on how they make their mark or stand out to you?
Yeah, I think more than anything right now, there's a lot of noise and abundance in applications. So I think years and years ago, it might have been 80 applicants, and now it might be 800 applicants. So for me, for someone to stand out, I would go back to the basics, like straight up to the fundamental. Do I have a professional headshot on LinkedIn? Do I have a bio that very clearly states what I'm looking for? Have I reached out to a hiring manager or a recruiter or made some sort of connection to someone at the company? Does my resume, is it clear? Is it concise? Does it tell the story? Like, sometimes going back to the very, very basics of, maybe I have too much going on, simplifying things is actually better for me. It's easier for me digesting 800 resumes to go, okay, who's the clearest message? Who's the clearest story right now? That's easier for me to want to speak with them. So that's a suggestion I would have, is just go back to the very, very basics. And then I would have some sort of headline. If it's, let's say it's to answer your question directly, if it's just a resume and I have nothing else to go by, have a super clear heading or short description of what you want. Your desire matches what I want, boom, you're going to get an interview. So that is what I would have, is like a headliner or a bio at the top of your resume.
I think that's great. Brian, go ahead.
I would say that, for me, resume alone is never going to get it, because as a hiring manager, I am extremely risk averse, in the sense that I have had to fight my other managers in a steel cage death match to get the approval to hire this position. And so I want to know that the person I'm going to be bringing in is going to be good at this task. And the way you know that is by looking at people who've already done it, and not just say they've done it, but who've shown they've done it. And the way you do that is really through portfolio and through social media interaction. If people who have shown excellent data analysis skills online in a portfolio with real world data, and then communicated that, either in LinkedIn discussions or discussions on other people's content, or if you've done a YouTube video and you've shown me you can not only do great analysis, but talk about that analysis and present it to somebody who doesn't have deep expertise in that field, you've cleared the bar already. And to be honest, the last position I was in, we hired a 12-person team without a single interview or job application, including myself. Every single person was cherry-picked off their portfolio and their online interaction. And it was the best team I ever worked with.
Very insightful, interesting, and getting into kind of the tactics of folks reaching out to hiring managers directly. So I've gotten questions a lot about I haven't submitted an application, or maybe I have submitted an application, and maybe they do or do not know someone that's a hiring manager there, and even if they don't, maybe they have access to find it out. Like, what's some etiquette that you would recommend around trying to get in touch with the hiring manager, even if let's say they want to just learn more about the position and talk to you? Is that something that hiring managers are interested in? Do they want people to do that? Maybe we'll start with that question for both of you. Brian, I'll let you go first.
I think there's always the opportunity to reach out and basically say, was my application received? And, I think that's definitely something you want to do, particularly in a process I came from government for a lot of my career, and things just happen in the government application process. So your applications get lost, things get miscategorized. And so, typically a position would get, hundreds of applications. And so I think it's fine to reach out in that way. I would say in most cases, kind of actively reaching out to a hiring manager and an active recruit is probably not going to help you. But I think, typically what I would say is, if you're doing it at the time of the recruit, it's kind of too late. That what you want to do is you want to kind of target, okay, what are the industries I want to work in? What are the sectors? Who are the key people? Who are the key players I would want to work for? And get to know them and interact with them way ahead of time. Build those relationships and get to know people in the company, even if it's not the hiring manager, so that by the time a position does come up that you're interested in, you've already got those connections. You've built those relationships, so you're not kind of scrambling at the time of the hire.
Yeah, and not to necessarily put words in your mouth, but it feels a bit like it's about quality connections over quantity. Is that right?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Tara,
what's your take on that?
Yeah, I would have to agree. I didn't want to say it might not be helpful to do so, but Brian, I kind of agree. Time is so valuable at this point. And for me to have every applicant reach out to me directly as a hiring manager, say, I applied, please pick me. I think a super clear message that's short and sweet that says one sentence of something to make it personable, make you a human, not just an applicant, I think would be good if you're going to reach out. And then know that if you reach out, it might be read, but don't expect a response. So sometimes I'll have someone email me and say, thank you so much. Like I applied, and I'll read it and I'll notice it, but I don't take the time to respond. So I want people to know to not get discouraged, that taking all these steps matter. But I have to agree with Brian, the relationships you build way before you're applying to jobs matter more than anything. In my own career, when I've looked for jobs, I've been reaching out to my entire network, and it can be anyone. You don't have to already be a data analyst or be a business intelligence engineer to have a network. I was reaching out to anyone I knew who was even in a field similar to the field I wanted to get into, and build relationships way ahead of time. And Brandy, I agree, they were like quality relationships where I deeply cared about these people, and still do to this day, that have gotten me the jobs I have throughout my career and the roles I've had. So, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you both so much for that. I think, you know, it's definitely hard, right? It feels like, you know, there's all of these things that an applicant has to do, you know, apply for the job, get the skills, have a resume, make the personal connection. And it can definitely feel overwhelming. And, you know, that's normal. And it does take time, and it can be difficult. So I'm not trying to make it seem easy, but I think, you know, I really like this concept of kind of making that quality connection and kind of building from there. And networking is so important to that. You know, so when somebody, let's say somebody has made an impression, they, you know, have presented themselves well, clearly and concisely, you know, they've reached out, they've made a connection either to the company or to you personally, or even someone within the organization. And now they have an interview and it's coming up. What should they be doing in terms of preparing, right? You know, how much research should they do on the company or on you as the hiring manager? Should they make contact with you prior? Like, can you give us a bit of insight into what your preferences are on that? And Tara, maybe you can get started.
Yeah, definitely. Preparing for an interview, know the company, know the people, know the role. Like seems, like I said, going back to the basics, that seems like, of course I would know that. But sometimes if you're applying to 50 jobs, 100 jobs, and you're just shooting your resume as many places you can go, and then you get a job and you're like, or you get an interview, excuse me, still take the time to research the company, know how they make money. Do they do services? Do they do products? Do they do both? Know the people that you're interviewing with, find them on LinkedIn, or research them, or ask the recruiter or whoever is setting up the interview, can I have more information about the people I'm interviewing with? So how long have they been at this company? What are the different roles they've had at that company? Prep and know the role. The role you need to know backwards and forwards as far as responsibilities go, so that you have questions. And then more than anything, prepare questions, really thought out questions of, what does a typical day look like? What does a typical week look like? Why are you at this company? Ask the interviewer those questions. Just ask them, how would you know in a year from now why you hired the right person? Have deep thought out questions that you're going to ask to show that you want the role and that you're interested. And then this seems simple too, but plan the day. So plan your day. Do you need to drive in person? Are you going to be remote? What are you wearing? Are you bringing your resume? Are you sending anything in advance? Make sure you're prepared. Those are all things I would do. And then more than anything, I think, let's say you do all of that, be confident, be calm, be confident in who you are, and know your worth, that when you show up, you have something to provide, and that you are great for this role, and that you're going to get it. Have that mindset. That's my advice if I had an interview coming up.
Awesome.
You know, and I would echo, you know, many of the same things, you know, that by the time you get to the interview, everybody has a good portfolio, everybody has a good resume, you know, so those things you basically have to think from the interview stage, you're starting kind of from scratch, and you have to think, what's going to differentiate me from what I call it splitting the stack. So, you know, if you have 8 people who are made the interview phase, you've got to split that stack 3 times to get down to the final 2. And some of the things I've seen that split the stack are the I want a job versus I want this job.
Mm-hmm.
And the I want this job people come in. And I had somebody who, again, this was in a government position. They'd researched our last 3 years of appropriations, our strategic plan, the data portion of our strategic plan, and had specific questions about how does the trend they saw in the appropriations play into what we want to do in the data, in the data element of the strategic plan. That person got hired. Okay. It's like, that is the kind of thing where you say, okay, I want this job, and I've put in the effort to really show that I'm not only a great analyst, but that I'm going to show up prepared, that, I'm insightful. I think another thing that really does it is knowing your narrative. That, I used to ask a question at the end of every interview, and I did it kind of as a chance to give people a way to bring in things that hadn't come in the interview yet. And I said, what are the 3 major reasons we should hire you over all the other candidates we're looking at? And I thought that was a softball question that everybody would knock out of the park. And it was shocking to me how many people seemed like they were thinking about it for the first time. And you want to walk into an interview not only knowing what your narrative is, not only knowing that when you're asked that question, what your 3 points are, you want to have geared your portfolio, your resume, everything you're coming in prepared to talk about, the examples of what you've done in the past, to basically undergird and support that narrative. And the thing about it is, your narrative is going to be different for different jobs, because you have to determine, are you in that interview round because you've got great general skills, or are you there because you've got particular domain expertise? And even as a student, you're going to have domain expertise that, as Eva talked about and as Andy talked about, you've got knowledge, you've got expertise that you're coming in with. And it's a question of, are you there? Why do you think you're there? And build that narrative off of, are you there as a great, general analyst and someone who can communicate well, or are you there because healthcare or HR analytics or finance, and build that narrative from that base?
Yeah, this is incredible. I actually, I took out my journal from so I have the event flow document. I took my journal out and started taking notes myself here as you guys were talking. So
I always do.
Yes, I'm sure that many others were taking notes too. So some great insights, good points, things that I myself even need to think about. So thank you very much for that back and forth right there. We are winding down not only on time on this session, but also just on the day in general. I want to close with one question for both of you. If you were to think back, go back to the, beginning of your career, and let's pretend you're starting it right now today. What's 1 or 2 pieces of advice that you would give to yourself if you were just getting started now, to try to break into the field or into that first role? We could start with Brian.
I think that if I look back at the thing I would do totally differently, it was networking. Until 3 years ago, I didn't even have a LinkedIn account, and it was like the field I was in was really, really narrowly specific. And it was, probably 200 people in the whole country did what I did. And we all knew each other. We knew each other from conferences. But what I found in really engaging in the data community here is, it's so far beyond your particular little field, your particular little area of expertise. And I've learned so much and gained so much from participating in the community that, I think if you're coming into this field now, or you're hoping to come into it, there are so many people in this field who are remarkably generous, in sharing their expertise, their knowledge, and you can literally engage with like world experts, who've written books, who, people like Andy, the Tableau, Dustin, the Brandy, the Tableau, kind of emissaries, are all out there to talk to. And it's like, it is amazing the mentorship and guidance you can get by just engaging in the community.
I
Totally.
agree. Yeah, I was thinking, okay, if I had to go back to Tara at the very start of my career, I did network. So I do think the reason I'm in the role I'm in today is because I networked. And I just was human to human. I built relationships. I knew some of the chats are commenting about my cat. Like I knew other people's cats and dogs names and their daughters and their sons, and human to human was how I connected. So I agree, like networking, not for the sense of like, let me add you to my LinkedIn so I have 500 plus. That's not what I mean. I mean actually building relationships early on. So I could not agree more with Brian on that. And then I was thinking, okay, what's something maybe I didn't do that I would give myself advice on? And I think if I could go back, it would be see the bigger picture. I think I had blinders on a little of, I just want to become a business intelligence engineer and I just want to get that role and be on that team. And sometimes I wish I had seen like the larger picture of how I fit into the organization and why that role existed. So that's advice I would give to someone either switching careers into data or starting right out of college, is to understand the bigger picture. So if you're deeply technical, understand maybe the more managerial routes, or like product management or program management or scrum master roles or back end or front end. Like when I really started to click things in my career was when I understood like how I fit into the mission of like the bottom line of the company. Why does this company exist? Where is this company heading? Where am I heading? And am I in alignment with that? So that's definitely advice I would give myself, is just to understand why this is all happening. And then the last thing I guess I'll mention is, I mentioned at the beginning storytelling. I want to be a little clear with what I mean by that. Being able to tell your story is your greatest asset in your career. And I mean that like to my core. I think the reason I am where I am today is because I'm a good storyteller. And people have imposter syndrome, or like, I don't have the technical background to do this role. That doesn't matter. Have a story of like, maybe why you're the best learner, or why you're the most technical resource. Or if you're an introvert, say why being an introvert is going to be awesome for you in this role. Or if you're an extrovert, say why. Know yourself and know your story. If your background is like, I worked in a restaurant and then I worked at this company and then I did this small role in retail, that's okay. You can still get the job. You have all this experience that's led you to this interview. So one way I practice telling my story is to people that are not in the field. So that's one kind of like actionable thing I have for this panel, is to say, go explain to like a friend who has nothing to do with data your story, and try to tell a cohesive story to someone who doesn't know what SQL is, doesn't know what Alteryx is, Tableau, Snowflake, doesn't know any of that. Try to tell your story to a parent, to a family member, and get really clear on it. The clearer you are with the vision you have and the story you're telling, is your future is going to align with that story because it's your truth. And so it'll become your reality. Yeah, those are the pieces of advice I would give myself if I was starting today.
Those are awesome pieces of advice. Thank you both very much. There's a ton of really nice comments coming in. People are really appreciative of the feedback that you're giving here. I did want to just highlight a couple comments from Bonnie. One is for each of you here. So Bonnie says, Brian, Julius, you're a gem. And I think this summarizes several other comments. And then Bonnie also said, Tara, you give me hope for the future of my career. So I love those two comments from Bonnie and wanted to share those. And then also to end on kind of a lighter note, because we hit on some heavy stuff here, but we like light stuff too. That's part of what this is all about, is having fun and being authentic too. So Will, I put a message out from Data Career Summit that said cats are absolutely allowed at the summit. And Will said, yes, Dustin, what's the cat's name? So the cat's famous now, Tara. We got to know what the cat's name is.
Fun fact for everyone: Brian has 2 cats and I have 2 cats. So we both, my cat's name is Levi and Riley. And this entire panel, they've been like fighting and running around and jumping on things and making a lot of noise. So I apologize. But yeah, Levi and Riley, come here.
That's awesome. Thank you both so much for your time today. Obviously, we could keep talking. This is an incredible topic. We only just scratched the surface, so we may have to have you back, maybe as guests on the Data Ideas podcast. We can dive in a little bit more or something.
Love to.
But thank you so much for all of your words of wisdom today. For everybody in attendance, please connect with them on LinkedIn. Brian is posting, I think pretty frequently. Tara is just somebody who's probably doesn't post as much on LinkedIn, but still is incredible to follow and just connect with and have her as a resource. And I'm hoping maybe she'll be open to some questions. And
Yeah,
feel free to pop into the chat too and answer some of the questions that folks have. But thank you all so much.
Thank you
Thanks.
both.
Thank
That was great.
you.
Thank you.
I'm actually, Brandy, I'm posting this week on interview strategy. So
Excellent.
Perfect. Timing.
Perfect.
Thank
There
you
we go.
guys so much for today. I appreciate it.
Brian's teasing a little post that he's about to have.
There
This
we
is
go.
excellent.
Love it. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, cool.
All right.
Well, we have only a few minutes left here. So I'm actually going to share my screen and talk about this next segment, which is a new challenge that I have concocted for everybody here. One of the key things, this summit is so exciting. I love it so much, but it's only 3 hours and we do it twice a year. And you have asked for more networking and more kind of just community building opportunities. And so I've prepared an 8-week challenge. And this is going to help you, not only, let's actually dive right into the deck here. We're going to be sharing helpful resources, not only from me to you, but I want you to share all of the helpful resources that you know of with each other, right? You all have been so awesome in the comments today and in the chat, helping each other, chatting, sharing resources. Let's keep that going. We're going to continue creating connections with each other, having those good discussions, and then throughout, we're going to be able to build something to add to our portfolio. So there are some rules. The goal is to kind of engage every week throughout the course of 8 weeks. You're going to be working on a project of your choosing. And so this is a really great opportunity to either get domain knowledge or experience and work on something that might relate to that job that you want. And we're going to be doing this all in a Data Career Summit Slack space. So those are just some of the rules and a brief overview of what we're going to be covering. The first week is going to be all about kind of thinking about your project, understanding the business, thinking critically about how you want to solve this problem, right? As lovely as, creating awesome visualizations are, and learning new tools. These are all really, really important. But I think also being able to apply it to that business is going to help you stand out and make your mark when applying for jobs. Week 2 is going to be actually getting the data and, assessing its cleanliness and cleaning it up or, adding to it. And this is going to be where you can start getting hands-on with some tools, ones that you're already familiar with, or maybe you want to try out Alteryx, right? You're going to be able to do that. Week 3, it's about looking at your data, finding those insightful nuggets and really digging into it. Week 4 is starting to pull out the pieces in that data that help you tell that story or help you drive business insights and action, right? And then we're going to circle back and really compare it to that business problem that you outlined because we need to make sure that we're achieving that objective. Week 5, if you're struggling with anything throughout this whole thing, we're as a community will help and support one another. And so week 5, we're going to do peer mentorship, paired programming, and some feedback sessions, right? Feedback and iteration is a normal part of the process. Week 6, we're going to start to finalize whatever that final solution is, whether it's a PowerPoint, whether it's an interactive dashboard, whether it's an analysis, something like this. Maybe it's a machine learning model. Not really sure what your jam is, right? You get to define that, but then you're going to publish it to a portfolio. Week 7 is kind of figuring out what the next steps are because every solution is an interim solution. There's always more that we can be doing. And then we're going to make sure we connect with other people, and we're going to be doing a LinkedIn skills endorsement drive. So I'm going to endorse you for the skills that you've, demonstrated, and you're going to endorse me for the skills that I've demonstrated throughout this week. So we're also going to be building up our LinkedIn presence. And then week 8 is really going to discuss how we learn and how we keep learning, right? And maybe there's things that you found that you really love and you want to specialize in a certain area. We're going to talk about our resources, and we're going to keep it going with the Data Book Club as well. So that's the challenge. I hope that you join me. It's going to be kicking off in 1 week. So, for those who maybe are catching the recording, there hopefully is still time to join, but we're going to be doing that March 1st. So, that was fast. I can't believe I did that fast, but there we go.
Yes, that was amazing how fast you did that. And there was so much packed in there. I know folks are really excited about it. One thing just to clarify, Brandy, is the Slack space. Folks are interested in that and knowing how to get in there.
Yeah.
How can they get in there?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I just posted the link in the chat to join Slack. One.
Thank
2,
you.
there's going to be a link in our follow-up survey, so you can join from there, and a link in the recap email. So you really have to not read anything of the things that we send out to miss it. So it'll be in multiple places.
Love it. Perfect. Sounds good. All right. So, wow, the day went really fast. I think, to your point, we could go for hours and hours. Love everybody's comments. Feel free, please. I would encourage you to post if you learned something today that you liked. You heard from someone that inspired you. Please share it out on social media. Tag the person or the people that you were inspired by. Share what they said, so others can see that too. Tag hashtag Data Career Summitude so that we can share that message out as well. Feel free to tag Brandy and I if you'd like as well. We'll be watching it, and we would just love to see your feedback. I know the speakers, everyone donated their time today that spoke. Would love to hear your feedback and hear those shout outs. So please do share that out on LinkedIn and social media. Remember to hit subscribe on our YouTube channel as well. We saw there's quite a few new subscriptions that came in. It does help us out. So please do, before you log out, take a moment to just hit subscribe on YouTube. And then please do take the feedback survey. There's the QR code right up there. Let us know how we did, what we can do better, what ideas you have for other content. Brandy, any other closing comments? I know we're right at 12 o'clock Central.
I think that you covered it. I'm looking at my notes, and you got it all. Yeah.
Awesome.
So please, we really
12
do.
o'clock Central, right on the head.
Yeah. I will say, Dustin, you already mentioned this, but we really do read every response that you submit to the feedback. And we actually use that to craft the next event. We want to provide content that's valuable to you. So make sure you give us that feedback. Okay. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thanks, everyone. Great to see you. And we will see you at the next Career Summit.
Bye.
Bye.